What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Saga of Dice podcast. Dang it. Um, Welcome, Carson. How you been?
I've been pretty good. We just had a long weekend, which is nice.
Yep.
Been getting the last of my models painted for Tacoma, waiting for the points to drop so that my list completely changes before Tacoma and I freak out and have to paint stuff last minute. But,
Yeah.
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
Nice. I'm just going to pretend like we haven't been talking for the last couple of minutes. Yeah. Yeah, good, busy, same as you, same as usual. Yeah, I'm just trying to get some Lizzie men things painted up. I'm really enjoying it. They're taking way more time than I would have thought, but like I love the model so much, so I can't not paint them to a certain level. But yeah, and then right before the stream, I was looking up different like lizard eyes, like examples of reptile eyes and whatnot. I was going, oh my god! I found this Tokay gecko. It has the actually, you know what? I might show it on stream. It looks so freaking crazy. I know this is kind of a divergence here, but okay, let's open this up in a new tab. Boop.
Divicus says, looks like Rob's putting on a gun show. Flex those arms, Bress.
Yeah. Not as much as Carson.
What?
I haven't.
What? Come on. Flex press. Objectify yourself on the internet. Come on.
No. It's just too hot right now, Ladivicus. That's what it is. What's up, Sean? Welcome. How crazy, though, is this gecko's eye? Like, that's an alien eye, right?
Is that a real gecko eye?
It says it's a Tokay gecko. I don't know. I mean, it could be photoshopped, but...
It looks like a map of Middle Earth that's been, like, split by evil.
Yeah. A lot of them have, like, crazy crap in their eye, though, hey? But
it's literally crap. Yeah.
There's just,
I don't know how it gets in there.
There's just shapoopy in the eye. I think he's just got a bad case of pink eye. What's up, Ben? Yo, Keith, welcome as usual. I was just telling Carson I was looking for some inspiration. Now, I'm not going to try this on my Agrodon, FYI, because I already go insane. I hate doing irises as it is. How much do I bench? Not enough. I've actually just started working out again, but I'm doing like TRX because, yeah, anyway, I've got some hand injuries, which is why I kind of stopped for a long time. So Carson's actually the lifter, so you should ask him. I'll wait for him to do it, though.
I'm going to wait for him to ask.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll put that away. So we're doing the GHB tonight. Welcome, everyone. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate you. But first, we've got a rumor engine, which is kind of fun to discuss. Now, I realized I forgot to I had sushi for dinner, and the soy sauce just dries out my entire body, especially my mouth. So I'm going to grab a drink real quick. Why don't you give us your thoughts on this while I grab a drink?
Sure thing. So they finally decided to make a model of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I think that's great. Yeah. That's it. There's nothing else to say, really.
God, Carson, why did I leave you for just a moment? I think it's a Skaven model. I think it's an early Skaven model.
I think the arm is a little too bare to be a Skaven model, don't you think?
So, like, a lot of stuff like the Hellpit Abomination is, yeah, like hairless. Like the rat ogres and stuff, a lot of them are more hairless because of, I guess when they mutate them and stuff, all their hair falls off. But it reminds me of the Hellpit Abomination and how it's kind of got that like weird, like, I don't know, disfigured sort of arm. He's carrying
sense. Yeah. One interesting.
Carson is Atlas from the Meat Dimension, FYI. Yeah.
That's true, actually. Yeah. Yep. Not gonna elaborate on that further. So I saw an interesting theory that on Reddit where someone was talking about this looks like kind of the arm of a flesh eater quartz kind of thing.
Oh.
And then another interesting thing too is that ogres actually it all comes back to ogres, baby. Sorry,
No problem. So I can kind of see that.
Gorgers. Or Ogre Gorgers
Oh.
is the thing that it's still a resin model. It's not going to be that, but it made me think of that. I think it's going to be an FEC model, though. That's my prediction.
FEC would be cool. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's not a bad call. It's got a weird like kerchief around its wrist, which is weird for both of them. Probably for maybe it's not a Skaven. Holly, your gremlin dog, makes an appearance as usual, or not as usual. What am I saying? My dog cannot. Yeah, he's just a wrecking ball. He's Miley Cyrus. We named him wrong. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably AOS though, right?
I think so. Yeah. I don't think there's any way it's not. Because it looks like so he's either like pinned via his arm with a bolt or something, or it's like an arrow or a crossbow bolt. And my initial thought was that maybe this is like a giant's arm, and that's like a regular sized arrow.
Oh, but like it's got like some piece of like bar underneath its elbow or arm there.
Bar underneath its.
Fits with FEC. It is the flavor of their lady before they go off to the tourney. Really? Oh! Whoa! That's so cool. Okay. Now I get the kerchief because like I don't normally see that. Molder, Scryer, Verminlord, Huff's Hopium. Yeah. Like when I originally said Skaven, Warpstone, I was thinking like it's a little early, but like, we have seen stuff a year out before. Yeah. That would be cool. A Molder, Scryer, Verminlord with like one more named character would be awesome. I love my Verminlords. I have 3 of them, plus the one that just got canceled, the Warpnaw Verminlord. Yeah.
Yep.
He said some bad things on Twitter, from what I understand. So I said, nope.
Yeah, he was really into the Alex Jones stuff.
No, he's not. I can't. I'd have to throw him in the trash, Carson. So he's not okay. Looks to me like pretty much like a Tyranid participant from the aforementioned gun show. I like all of these. The thing about it not being Tyranid though is because that definitely looks metal. The bit sticking out of him. So that's what. Okay, Carson, I will ask, how much do you lift?
From time to time.
He says, how much?
Yeah, from time to time.
You piece of trash. Okay.
No, I mostly do kettlebells right now.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So I guess like my heaviest bell is like a 35 kilogram bell.
That's a good bell. Yep. As they say, ring that bell.
I saw that scene from Family Guy where there's the 2 bald dudes with mustaches and they go hop ho hop, hop, ho, and I was like, that's gonna be me someday.
Yeah, you just needed to shave your head and grow the mustache out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's kind of a fun one, so that's cool. But I guess we can kind of just go on to it. I don't know how long it's not a small amount of info in this new GHB, so I guess we'll go on to it. If you guys have anything that you wanted to mention, I didn't see any like AOS kind of news. Like we call this the Sag of Dice podcast now, partially just because like we're not opposed to doing stuff other than Age of Sigmar only, but that's kind of the focus and that's mainly our audience. But yeah, if there's anything else that you guys think I missed, let me know. I didn't see anything else like that, so yes. Okay, here we go. There's the PDF and boop. Okay.
So do you?
Oh wait, why is it doing that now?
What's the structure we want to go with here? We're figuring it out live. Do we want to go with like we're doing literally everything, all the battle plans, all of the?
Why don't we go through the rules somewhat heavier? Yeah, we did not get a chance to. We both had rather busy days, so. Why don't we go through the rules kind of in more detail, and then we can go through the battle plans like quickly.
Yeah. Do you want to go through the war scrolls for the endless spells as well? Those are some of them have changed pretty significantly.
Some of them. Why don't we go through the ones that have changed? Like some of them haven't changed at all, as far as I can tell, like true. Ravenix or swords and whatnot. But like some stuff like shards, the little pyramid one, and some stuff got worse, like cogs, which you probably won't see much anymore. Anyway, welcome to the mirror. Yeah, I know. I was like, why did it do that? And then I figured it out. But anyway, okay, let's do it. So it is the magic. We heard like a rumor early on that it's going to be all about summoning, but it's not, which I'm glad for. I think this magic idea is really cool. So yeah, it's mostly about magic. Oops. So we've got special rules. Wizard heroes with a wounds characteristic of 9 or less that are not unique gain the Andorian Locus keyword. So that is, it has nothing to do with mounts anymore, which is really nice. Like I was sad, anyway. So that's cool.
Yep.
And that basically affects the rest of how everything works. Optimal focus at the start of the battle round. After priority is determined, the player taking the second turn can pick one friendly hero on the battlefield. If that hero is an Andorian Locus, they can attempt to cast one extra spell and attempt to unbind one extra spell in that battle round. If they are not an Andorian Locus, you receive one command point that can only be spent to allow that hero to issue a command. So this is interesting in a couple of different ways. First of all, like, it doesn't say you could just choose to get an extra command point essentially for a hero.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think we talked about this a little bit because the first 3 sections of this,
yeah,
or at least the first little bits, like they were already shown to us by Games Workshop. And one thing that we kind of brought up back then was that this is essentially just like the 4-up CP for your hero, except for the entire battle round, which is kind of
entire
nice.
battle round, and it's automatic, which is really important. And you get it at the start of the battle round. So it's not just for that turn, like as you were saying, but like just kind of, yeah. I think this is really cool. It is further emphasizing taking the bottom of the turn, which is nice.
Yep.
So yeah.
There's also one preface I want to put, which is kind of interesting, and this is somewhat spoilers, I guess, for the rest of the GHB, but Andorian Locus is actually not nearly as much of a linchpin as Galatian Champion was.
Absolutely.
Which I really, really enjoy.
Me too.
And we'll see that more as we kind of get through the rules, but you'll notice that this next section, Primal Magic, doesn't interact with the Andorian Locus system at all, actually.
Yeah. It's really cool.
And segue!
At the start of the hero phase, both players roll a dice. For each 4-up, each player receives 1 Primal Magic dice. After actually, I should read it on the where's bigger. I don't know what I was thinking. After a player attempts to dispel an endless spell, cast or unbind or dispel an endless spell, they can roll 1 of their Primal Magic dice. If they do so, add the result to the casting, unbinding, or dispelling roll. That player can continue to roll additional Primal Magic dice until the caster suffers a Primal Miscast, see below, or there are no more Primal Magic dice to be rolled. Abilities that allow you to reroll casting, unbinding, or dispelling rolls must be used before Primal Magic dice are rolled. If you choose to use an ability to reroll a casting, unbinding, or dispelling roll, you cannot use Primal Magic dice to supplement that roll. At the end of each battle round, any Primal Magic dice that have not been used are lost. When a Primal Magic dice is rolled as part of a casting roll on an unmodified casting roll that includes a double 1, the caster suffers a Primal Miscast, including instead of a miscast. The spell is not successfully cast. The caster suffers 3 plus D3 mortal wounds, and each other unit within 3 inches of the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds. In addition, the caster cannot attempt to cast any more spells in that phase. When a Primal Magic dice is rolled as part of a casting roll or an unmodified casting roll that includes a double 6, the spell is successfully cast and cannot be unbound. In addition, the caster cannot attempt to cast any more spells in that phase, and both players receive 1 Primal Magic dice.
So the TLDR version of this is basically that at the start of each turn, at the start of each hero phase, each player rolls a dice, and for each 4-up on either of those dice, both players get a Primal Magic dice, and that's an important distinction.
Right? I think
so.
I don't think I caught
if both players roll a 4-up, both players get 2 Primal Magic dice
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's wild. That's really
And
cool.
so, and the nice thing is too is that um, the way that it works as well is you roll your regular casting roll, and then after you do it, you look at your casting roll and you're like, okay, I got a 6. That wasn't very good. Then you can opt to use a primal magic
Yes,
dice. You
that's
don't have to
important.
do it as part of the initial roll.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is too is, as I said before, you don't have to be an Andorian Locust to interact with this rule. So let's say you have a hero that is not a wizard whatsoever, um, and they want to use heroic willpower to get like a dispel or something. They can use primal magic dice to dispel whatever spell that you're deciding to cast. So all of a sudden, you can have an army that has 0 casting whatsoever get like 4d6 to dispel something you really don't want to happen, which is actually quite good.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's it's pretty deep. Um
I played 2 games with the GHB so far, and the first game was definitely more interesting. But a lot of people are saying that this is really good for heavy casting armies. But I actually think that this is going to be really good for armies that have like one core spell that they really want to get off. Um, and also, it's good for armies that are no casting whatsoever, because all of a sudden you have a much better way of shutting down someone else's magic
yeah.
by kind of focusing it in like that.
I do think and I mean I think it's going to be I think it's good for both, yeah, and I think it just kind of it really creates an interesting new meta. Um so like if you are, for example, using like I played 2 games as well, and then I did one like I taught someone how to play AOS on Saturday, and so we didn't use any of the new stuff because that's just way too much, right? But yeah, in both games, you know, I brought like heavy casting armies. I brought Skaven and I brought Zeech. One of them will be a battle report. We obviously made a mistake because I didn't realize that when one person rolls the 4 up, then both people get the primal casting dice. But but yeah, it's and then there's other stuff too that like interact with it in kind of an interesting way. Like if you have the ability to re-roll, which is super powerful, and spoiler alert, Cogs no longer lets you re-roll casting. So, you know, the stuff where you can, it's like it's still super valuable to be able to re-roll, but then it takes away your ability to use primal casting dice, right? So, and like another thing that to point out too is it says, okay, where is it? When a primal magic dice is rolled as part of a casting roll on an unmodified casting roll that includes a double 6, so you have to roll your 2 dice and use a primal magic dice, right? It's automatically successful and it cannot be unbound, right? So there are 2 ways of doing this. What you could do is like if you roll the double 6, you could just roll a primal casting dice and make it so you can't unbind.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a funky little chicken sort of, thing that I think you can do. But then on top of that, you have to be careful about not re-rolling because you got to keep that in your mind. So like stuff like the Aspect of the Sea or Warp Spark for Skaven, or there's like a bunch of different ways of re-rolling casting, obviously. But you have to think of that ahead of time, like before you do it. And then the other thing too is like stuff like Zeech, where you can just you can just pick your numbers, right? So you could literally just, if you have a primal magic dice, you could be like, will not be unbound. I choose double 6s and then I'm going to use a primal magic dice. So it's kind of, there's a bunch of interesting sort of stuff you can do
Yeah.
based around it.
And one last interesting thing too is that you can hurt yourself pretty badly if you have a primal miscast as you're casting a spell.
Yeah.
But when you're using primal dice to dispel something,
Yeah.
or unbind, I always mix those two up.
Dispel is for endless spells. Unbind is to
Unbind, right?
Yeah.
Well, either way, actually, if you use a primal dice for that, my dog is just squeaking. Then you can't suffer any like negatives essentially. So if you just want to stack your primal dice for making sure your enemy doesn't do anything in their hero phase, then you can totally do that without consequence, essentially.
And I think, yes, and I think a lot of people will for sure do that, depending on the army. Like, For Zeech, probably the opposite, but like, yeah. Ludivika says, and you get them on both hero phases, so you could potentially have 4 or more. I think this is the start of the battle round, isn't it? Oh, the
Nope,
start of
it's
the
at the
hero
start
phase.
of the hero phase.
Whoa, so you could
So
really
you can have up to
stack
4.
them.
Actually, you can have
Jeez.
more than 4 because if someone gets the double 6s, then both players get another primal magic dice on top of that. So let's say your opponent is just like popping off, rolling double
Whoa.
6s on every spell, and then using primal magic. You can have like, I guess, 8.
And if you
in
have
that.
the acolyte battalion,
Or 6.
You'll have an additional one.
Yeah.
Wow. So you could potentially have or more primal dice if you go second and save them. Imagine Scragrot casting this spell with a 36. Crikey, yeah. If he gets it off.
So there's a rumor that there's going to be a day 0 FAQ that's just like primal dice used in addition that will like add dice like that to Mortal
really?
Wounds, or
yeah.
it's a rumor, but it's not confirmed. But I would imagine that's the case because that could get pretty insane.
I think it's fun though, it's not just Scragrot. Like there's lots of different ways of doing that. Like there's the Warsong Revenant he doesn't just do that. Like he can cast through the trees, and then he does it to everyone in range. So yeah. Woof. Gonna need the chat to hassle Rob about measuring his head. Oh gee. Okay. Was I supposed to measure my head? You can PM me, Robin. I appreciate that. That will be hilarious though. Yes, remind me. I actually have one of those things. Okay. SCG Kabbalist, excuse me, while I cast 3d6 and then add a 4th dice for good measure. Yes, and
then absolutely explode when you perils because like.
But actually, Eric was talking about this. How does that work? Because it says you don't do a normal. What do you call it? Like perils.
That's true.
Yeah. So it says it replaces it. So I think this might just. We need an FAQ for that, just straight up.
Yeah. I don't remember what the Kabbalists,
it goes from D3 to D6 mortal wounds that the sorcerer takes, but
this is worse in my opinion. D3
this is way worse than that. But the question is, Carson, does it become super, and is it 3 plus D6 plus D3 to everything?
I guess there needs to be an FAQ. I mean, rules is written. No, it's just replacing.
That's what I said. That's what I said to Eric. Actually, I ended up landing on it myself. But but Eric was saying I can see an argument for anything, really. Like he had like 4 different examples of what they could do, and frankly, actually, here, one second. I'm so dehydrated. I was talking about in one of the Skaven chats about the Grayseer on foot with his 3d6 pick the 2 highest. It says you can't add any modifiers to it. And like rules as written, this would count as a modifier, but my perspective is like I just don't see them saying, okay, you don't get to do your thing. Although they've kind of already said that with Skaven, so I could also see that, to be honest. But it's like, remember when the FAQ came out for the Sylvaneth Strike and Fade? Rules as written, that happened before Death Frenzy, before any fight on death a thing. And then when it was actually written into the FAQ team, they were like, no, we want people to be able to use their abilities. So they let it go through. And so they don't always go with rules as written, is basically my point. Warsong Bomb is ridiculous, dude. Like that's, yeah. And then there's other stuff too, man. You have a fitted. Oh, I have a fitted cap. That's right. I do have a fitted cap. Okay. I will check. I promise, Keith or Robin. Sorry. If your original casting roll as a 1 on a dice and you add a primal dice, that is your choice to make. Absolutely. I saw one person saying like, "What if you already have double 1s?" And I'm like, "Well, then don't add a why would you do that?
That's not enough mortal wounds. I want more."
Yeah. Those are rookie numbers. I mean, like, I guess you could see the only time I could see no, that wouldn't work. Wait, what if you have um wait, what happens when a primal magic dice is rolled as part of a casting roll? On an unmodified casting roll that includes a double 6, the spell is successfully cast and cannot be unbound. Okay. And then how does that interact? Because, like, okay, here's my question, right? You have a 6 and a 1. Okay. Then you roll a primal dice and you get a 1, right? Can you then roll another primal dice and hope for a 6? And then what happens if you get the double 6? Does it go off?
So, in my opinion, this is kind of. So, this has to do with the order in which these are written, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because it first says when a primal magic dice is rolled as part of a casting roll on an unmodified casting roll that includes a double 1, then that effect happens. And then it goes on to say the double 6 thing. Because the double 1 would happen first, right? And you would immediately suffer a miscast, therefore the casting ends.
Okay, one second. Here, let's read this again. Where's the double 1 thing? Oh, yeah, here we go. So, at the start of... Okay, for each after a player attempts to cast or unbind a spell, or after a player attempts to dispel a spell, you can roll one of their primal magic dice. If they do so, add the result to the casting roll. That player can continue to roll additional primal magic dice until the caster... Oh, yeah, there you go. Until the caster suffers a primal miscast. Okay, yes, you're absolutely right. But I wanted to make sure, because, like, you never know. Like, I actually think that would be really fun if you could just be like, I'm going to keep going and see what I can... You know, you're just going to keep... Like, that would add so much fun to it, is actually why I was hoping I was right, but I'm wrong. Yeah, that's not...
It's already pretty fun as is. Like, I was playing with Kenrick, and...
I agree.
Because the nice thing is that by default, you both have an equal amount of primal dice. So I'm just like staring across the table and like, okay, I really want this spell to go off, but I know he really wants me to not have this spell go off. Like, how many primal dice do I commit to do this? And I'm just kind of rolling one at a time, because you roll your primal dice one at a time, right?
Yeah.
So you roll your original roll and you're like, okay, that was pretty good. Do I spend a primal dice? Like, do I do this? You're constantly like gambling in your brain. Like, is it worth adding another one? And if you like add just one, it's like crap. Like,
it's like the Starship Troopers of dice rolling. Do you want to roll more? Right. Okay. Sorry. Think of all the spells that have a better effect when you cast 10+. Yeah, absolutely. Soulblight Gravelords. Now, you know, if the patch sort of thing, but wouldn't that be in the War Scroll? Like the or whatever it's called, the Battle Scroll?
I'm not sure what you mean.
So they're like, you know, they do like the big patch, the big FAQ. It's called Battle Scroll, I think. Everyone, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's called Battle Scroll.
What would be in it, though?
What's that?
What would be in it?
Oh, if the thing where you can't keep adding, like, it doesn't add to the effect, like primal dice don't count towards Scragrot's spell, for example. If that were the case, I would think they would put that in the Battle Scroll. I would think. And we haven't seen...
Probably.
So you and I have seen through a tournament that will not be named. You and I have seen a couple of potential... We're pretty reliable spoilers about how they're changing coherency and a few other things like that. And we haven't seen anything like that in there. So I don't know. I'm kind of fingers crossed that they don't do that, just because, like, I like the craziness, but I am a Skaven player, to be fair.
Yeah. It's also odd because, and I'm pretty sure this is public knowledge at this point, that like the Battle Scroll is supposed to be coming out Thursday.
That's
right?
That's a rumor that we heard today or yesterday, and it seems reliable because it's done through like a tournament organizer that is a friend.
I didn't even know that part.
Is a friend of a friend. Yeah. So I mean, that's what it seems like. You know, like, I don't know the person. We saw, you know, some stuff in our own private Discord thing that we have, and so it seems like that. I won't say, you know, I won't even say like who told us that, even though I don't think that person is under any kind of, you know, reason not to say stuff. But just be careful, you know.
Wasn't it on Warhammer Weekly that they said that?
Which one?
That the Battle Scroll's Thursday.
I don't think so. Because they are under
Metawatch.
NDA.
MetaWatch.
Oh, MetaWatch. Oh, that's
Yeah.
Honest Wargamer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's not under NDA with them, so that makes sense. I never saw that actually. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a pretty reliable thing at this point, though. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
So anyway, the point I was
Yeah.
getting to is that it's weird that the battle scroll is coming before this GHB if it's going to be addressing any interactions whatsoever with it.
It's true.
It's kind of odd.
Maybe I don't know, but I'm glad that. Honestly, I wish they would have done the points like a week ago or so, like just as early as possible, because there's like they have their own open tournament that, from what we understand, is going to be using the new GHB, and I don't really blame them, because what happened at LVO was no one really cared about the results to a large extent. And I know that rubbed a lot of the players the wrong way, and I'm sure it rubbed the tournament organizers like really hard the wrong way. So I understand them wanting to use it. The only problem, though, is that like without these kinds of points, like what I mean. Like the later we know the points, the harder it is for people who have to adjust at the last minute when their list gets inevitably table flipped. So yeah, my heart goes out to all those people, including you. Well, much less to you than everyone else, but yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall we move on?
Yes. So I just wanted to. Robin said I'm looking to starting a channel over the next year. Let me know when you do that, Robin. I will. I don't really use Twitter and that kind of thing, but like, send me a message and I will retweet, and we'll have you on or something. I like to support new channels. I know how hard it was. Blah blah blah. So let me know. Leviticus, those are all unmodified casting values, so it depends on the primal dice count as modifying the roll. Yes, so the some things are, some things aren't. Like Scragrod is not. It says like it doesn't say unmodified. So like Scragrod will be a problem, I think, if he's allowed to do that, and I hope he is, because I think it's super fun. But yeah. The only time you're going to using the magic dice will be to unbind an endless spell. I don't think so. Like a lot of the new spells from the Lore of Frost is like really high casting value. Like 8 is like the minimum, I think.
One of them's 12, I think.
Yeah. The shotgun blast, the 46 mortal wound is a 12. So anyway, yeah. I don't want to get too off into the weeds here. You can't cast any more spells. That's a very good point to bring up, Ladivicus. So you kind of want to actually use your important spells first in that. If your cast roll has a 6 and no 1, might as well add a primal to try for a second 6. It cannot be unbound. Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong. Although if you get the 1, then you die, right? And everything around you gets blasted, which is super awesome. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying, Dark Trial. You can totally use Destiny dice, and it's not a reroll. Cool. Anyway, so moving right along. Unique enhancements. So these are. Would you mind explaining this?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to butt in, because this whole paragraph that describes what Nullstone Adornments is just a way of saying you can pick one of these if you don't have a wizard in your army. And also, if you get another enhancement, you can pick another one of these. It's like the enhancements that we saw in the last GHB, where you had like Leadership of the Alpha, like Fueled by Gurish Rage, that sort of stuff. Same thing, except the caveat is you cannot have a wizard in your army to take one of these, and whoever you put it on can't already have an artifact.
Right.
So there are 3. The first one is you're basically giving someone who is not a wizard the ability to unbind one spell or dispel one endless spell. And then anytime they successfully do that, they can just keep going. So if you successfully unbind a spell or dispel an endless spell, you can keep going until you don't unbind one.
It's to level the playing field.
Yeah. And then the next one, Pouch of Null Dust, is once per battle in the hero phase. Basically, you make it so that any wizards on the battlefield, if they primal miscast, they primal miscast on a double 1s, double 2s, or double 3s for, what is that? Is it an entire... Let me just read it out. Once per battle at the start of the hero phase, you can say that the barrel will use the Pouch of Null Dust. If you do so, until the end of that phase. Okay. Unmodified casting rules that include a double 1, double 2, or double 3 are treated as miscast, or if primal magic dice was rolled as a part of a casting roll, primal miscast. In addition, roll a dice for each end of the spell on the battlefield. On a 5+, that end of the spell is dispelled. So it's basically just like a big middle finger to your enemy for that one hero phase. It's pretty good. And then the last one, Polished Nullstone Pebble. Basically, it gives whatever unit you give it to a 4-up spell shrug. However, the important bit is that you pick another unit within 3 inches of that unit when a spell were to target it. And if it was shrugged on the 4-up, then you can basically bounce it onto that unit, friendly or enemy. So if you're sitting in a group of friendlies, it has to bounce onto a friendly unit. But if you're sitting in a group of enemies, it can also bounce onto enemies too. And there are certain endless spells that just say, pick a unit that is within 1 inch of this thing when it blah, 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 blah. So this is pretty good for bouncing your opponent's endless spells or whatever back onto them if you have like a big stone horn in their back line or something like that.
Indeed.
So, do you have a preference for these 3?
Oh, geez. I wasn't thinking about that. Well, first of all, I wanted to say I like that they thought about who the armies that this is for. So, for example, you could use it like most importantly, almost in that this army has not been doing well at all lately. Like giants, the past 2 GHBs have been like, boo giants, suck a turd. You were too good for too long, so we don't want you guys doing good at all. And this is just like, you can have, your giant, not, as long as they don't have an artifact of power, they can take one of these. So it's just like a cool boost. They thought about, Khorne, everyone who's just like not going to have a wizard or is unlikely to, KO, whoever, it doesn't matter. So I think that's really fun. I think that's really cool. The Skaven in me says Pouch of Null Dust for sure, right? The only thing is it's once per game.
It's once per game, and here's the thing: is I did the math on this, and it changes a lot depending on your opponent's use of primal dice.
Okay.
The best time to use this, in my opinion, is that if your opponent is going second, and they've been saving up all of their primal dice.
Right.
I think that's the best time to use this, because then, if they opt not to use their primal dice to not miscast, then you're wasting like 4 of their primal dice or something at maximum.
Right.
And if they do use the primal dice, then it's much more likely that this effect is going to proc, because on average you have to cast 9 times for this to be applicable once on just 2 dice.
Is that right?
Yeah. Double 1s, 2s, or 3s.
Right. So,
because if you think about on 2 dice, to roll double 1s is a 1 in 36 chance, right? And then you double it to go.
That's true.
1s and 2s.
Okay.
And then double it again for 1s, 2s, and 3s, right?
Yeah.
So you're 1 in 9 chance.
But then I think I think you divide that in half, so it's 1.45. And the reason for that is because it doesn't have to be any one of them. It has to be like, it could be each one of those, right? So like,
yes.
I'm not sure if that's right though. I'm not sure. You know what I mean though? Like,
I'll have to do the math again, but
yeah,
either way, it's a lot of casts to get this to proc.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I might be wrong. I am sleep deprived, but it's either, even if it is 4.5 or 5 casts on 2 dice, like most armies actually don't have that many casts in their hero phase.
Right. Yeah.
And sure, they could be using primal dice, but you're essentially saying like that you're causing them, like 1 in every 5 spells or something. Now you could get lucky, and you could cause them to do it like the very first time they roll something. It's certainly a deterrent.
Yeah.
I actually think one of the more valuable parts of this is the 5-up endless spell dispel, like battlefield wide. If you have someone who's like, say you're on turn 2 and your opponent's going second, and they've casted a whole bunch of stuff already. Then that would be a decent time to do that.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the main thing is it really just applied to the Skaven in me, just that like crazy stuff could happen. I used to play Kronos for Tyranids, in 40K and 8th edition in particular, just because there was all these fun things you could do when people miscast, and you could make people miscast, and it just kind of reminds me of that, and it's really fun. Have you been traumatized by LRL or Zeech? Well, do I have a deal for you? Yeah, that's absolutely the case. Yeah, that's true, Darktron. We'll see. You know, we don't know what the points are if the points are gonna change for them or not. So I think Zeech is gonna. I think Zeech is gonna pick up, but again, we don't know what they're gonna do with the points. They already kind of hit them pretty hard with that. What would you choose, Carson, for your Nullstone, whatever it's called? Adornment?
I would probably either choose hand-carved nullstone icon or polished nullstone pebble, I think.
So basically anything but the pouch.
I don't know. It's like they're all actually none of them are like amazing in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that. And I mean, like, one thing to remember too is that if you don't have a wizard, you are also going to get an extra CP.
Yeah.
Is it every hero phase, or is it every once per battle round?
Every battle round.
Battle round. Okay, that's what I
And
thought.
it's also only if you're going second.
Oh, yes, that's true. That's a good point, actually. That's a really good point. What up, Horrible? Thanks for joining us. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you.
Because realistically, hand-carved nullstone icon, the nice thing is that it's every hero phase.
Yes.
Or every one of your opponent's hero phases that this is applicable. And the reason why that's nice is because you can stack your first you can stack your first unbind with a whole bunch of primal dice.
Right.
Pretty much guarantee that you unbind whatever it is. And then get a second one based on the ability that hand-carved nullstone icon gives you.
Right.
So that's kind of nice. You're effectively giving yourself like two
extra kicks at that can, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, so the other thing too that I was looking at is, like, all of these are good against magic armies, and none of them are good against non-magic armies. Like, even if you have the polished nullstone pebble does not work against endless prayers, right? So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, like.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, they're 100% useless
Yeah,
against non-magic armies.
So I kind of feel like maybe the nullstone icon is the best one, just because it's like it's always going to be helpful. Like, I just don't think we're going to.
It's also.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say I don't think we're going to see endless spells as much in general. A little less. So yeah.
And so I think, like, the thought process for which one you pick and how many you pick, that you probably don't want to pick two, because you don't want to replace another artifact with two of these, in the off chance that if you're facing an opponent that doesn't have any magic at all, then it's like not a sunk cost essentially. And then you probably don't want to put. So most of the time when you have like a big swingy hero of some kind, you're probably going to have an artifact on it, I would imagine. A lot of armies will have artifacts that buff your melee heroes. So that kind of means you don't actually want to have polished nullstone pebble, because it's really only applicable for someone like you want to have whatever nullstone pebble, whatever has nullstone pebble to be like in your enemy's lines, right? To shrug spells onto your opponent and not onto your friendly units.
Right.
And so if that's the case, you probably don't want to pick that. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, totally. The more we talk about it, the more I think hand-carved nullstone icon is the way to go. Except against maybe like Zeech or Skaven, like an army where they're casting a lot of spells, and it's like, shoot, I might just lose an army. Basically, it could almost like theoretically shut off, what are they called? The primordial dice. But like, even without it, like, I mean, I have a lot of casts in my Skaven, or in the list I've been playing with Skaven lately. So yeah, and Laoshan is dead for Thanquol, officially. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna Thanquol was the only one using that spell, so I'm kind of disappointed they didn't figure out how to make it good, because you still can't cast a spell after you move them. So anyway. I
think nullstone icon is the pick too, just because it's also the thing of like it's constantly there versus once per battle as well, which is a big thing. A
big thing for me as well. Like, that's the main thing that I don't like. I really don't like or artifacts or anything that are once per game. I've been kind of traumatized by Cruel Boys. So, yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you could use it on, like, a Gray Seer or something, right? But because they can't cast a spell out. I mean, I guess, well, but there's no, what's it called? Galatian champion on a, what's it called? What was it? That battle tactic? Cunning maneuver, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We're just like, forget all the, you know, forget all of those now. Anyway, so Realm Sphere Magic. This is where stuff gets really fun, I think. The Lore of Frost. So the first one, Hood of Frost, is a spell that has a casting value of 8 and a range of 12 inches. If successfully cast, pick one friendly unit wholly within range and visible to the caster. Pick one melee weapon profile on that unit's war scroll and roll a d3. Change the to hit, wound, or rend characteristic of that melee weapon to match the result until the start of your next hero phase. For example, if the roll was a 2, you could either change the hit characteristic to 2, the wound characteristic to 2+, or the rend characteristic to -2. This spell is going to be, like, everywhere, right?
It's a very good Swiss Army knife, for sure.
Yes. Because, like, so first of all, 12 inches, right? Oh, and isn't there something that says you can't cast this through, doesn't, like, extend the range or something like that? Or did I make that up?
That's the last spell.
Okay,
It's
right.
Blizzard.
That's what it was. So you can't cast that through the mirror. That's what I was thinking about doing, and then I think it was Eric was like, no, you can't cast that through portal. And I was like, why not? And he's like, it says it right in the spell. I was like, damn it. Anyway, so this one is super exciting, and the coolest thing about it is that it changes the characteristic itself. So, like, for example, on Croxagore, which are really bad right now, like, especially for their points, if you change their, like, this always works on Croxagore, because if you change their to hit value to 3, then you can always all out attack them, so now they're hitting on 2s instead of 4s. Or if you get, like, -3 rend, or you get like a 3 or 5 or 6 on a D, the D3, that means that their rend characters will be 3. So it's always a good thing. Like, you can always use this for something. So I'm really excited by that. There's a bunch of things that I want to try out for it, and there's a bunch of things that I've already tried it out on, and it's so much fun. This spell is super cool. I love it. Yeah.
This also made, so there's a lot of units that have, like, 2-inch range versus an additional +1 to hit trade-off. So, like, spears versus clubs for Saurus warriors and chaos warriors and etc. I think this kind of remedies that, or, like, flips it on its head a little bit.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden I can have a block of 20 chaos warriors that all have halberds that can all attack with, like, 2+ or 3+ to hit at worst, right? Because even if you roll a 3, then you can just pick 3+ to hit.
Right. Absolutely.
Or you can give them 3 rend. It's up to you.
Yeah, and roll them dice. Like, I hate 4 up to hit, but -3 rend is a pretty good trade-off for, you know what I mean? And you can always just choose it depending on the target. Like, if you're going into goblins and you're like, okay, 3 up to hit for sure. But if you're going into, like, Stormcast or Sylvaneth, you might take that rend. Like, it's kind of a Swiss Army knife of spells. I forgot to say, Horrible said he likes Null Dust as an answer to alpha spells. That's a really good idea, actually. Yeah. But anyway, I want to know how soon the Underworld's rats are coming. Me too, Bahamut. Those rats are so freaking cool. I bet you it's within a month, though. That's typically what it is. Hood of Frost should have been casting value of 10 or 12. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I want to use the spell at the same time. Like, I want to have a reason to take it, and I'm going to be taking it in, especially, like, in Zeech and in Skaven. Yeah. Now everyone can have Siths. 60 clan rats with Skaven brew and gnaw something -3 rend. Yeah. I was using it on Storm Vermin, and they are nasty. They're so nasty, especially with 3 rend. Anyway, would you mind reading out Rupture?
No. Just kidding, yes. Rupture is a spell that has a casting value of 10 and a range of 18 inches. If successfully cast, pick one predatory endless spell or one incarnate, wholly within range and visible to the caster. The target immediately becomes wild and cannot be picked to be controlled or bonded for the rest of the battle.
Yeah. It's probably the least interesting one.
Well, Matthias would disagree.
Right. Right.
Because you can use this on Kronspine to level it up, I believe.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Like immediately, which is kind of crazy.
I think this needs an FAQ though, don't you?
Yeah, probably.
Like,
but otherwise, other than that one interaction, I think I agree. This is a This is kind of an underwhelming spell.
Yeah. So if simply cast with one for predatory, or incarnate, why? You know. Yeah, that's so crazy. So Horrible said, just to be clear, if you roll a 1 or a 2, you get a 1-up to hit or wound.
Yes.
And so, and then ones do always fail still, but even if you're -1 to hit, which is not that uncommon in this game now, or -1 to wound, depending on what the case is, then yeah, you're still hitting on 2s. It's so awesome. Yeah. Ruptured. Yeah, I mean, it could be, that's true. I don't think that's intended, but maybe it is. Like, making the Kronspine wild makes him like more deadly. I don't know that it levels him up, right? I could be
things up, but either way, it makes it more powerful in some way.
It makes it more powerful. Yeah, he gets like extra attacks or something like that. He gets more deadly. I can't remember if he gets to roll extra dice so he's easier to level up or what the deal is. I might have to get my conversion back in the works for Kronspine, like just for whatever. So it can eat your own endless spells. Oh, to level up. Oh, I see. So then you cast a super low level endless spell. It doesn't matter what it is, and then he gets to level up. I get it. You just want to slap people in the face with their own endless spells. That's also cool. Yeah, I like that too. That's a casting value of 10, which is interesting. And maybe I don't know. I think Hoarfrost is still my favorite. I mean, Hoarfrost. Sorry, excuse me, mispronunciation. But Merciless Blizzard is so cool. So casting value of 12, range of 12 inches. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range and visible to the caster. That unit suffers 46 mortal wounds. For each roll of 1, the caster suffers D3. This is a Skaven spell. This is actually a Skaven spell. No one knows that, of course. The range of the spell cannot be modified and must be measured from the caster, if an ability would allow you to measure it from elsewhere. So I'm thinking you teleport in an engineer or a bombardier, actually. Even better. And then so you teleport him in, and then if you've got like some primordial dice, obviously, right? Because you're going to need like at least one of those bad boys. So then you teleport him in with Skitter Leap, and then I guess you don't want him to reroll, but you just go for it, man. He just goes in there.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Slaves to Darkness Kabbalist.
Okay.
And I'm going to take as many Exalted Champions as I can who all become wizards in Kabbalist.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give them this spell.
Nice.
I'm just going to run them up the battlefield and like suicide them into the front lines, essentially. Just like, 46 mortal wounds. And then,
Oh, man.
I guess you could make them Zinch too, so you could warp reality them closer to your opponent if you want to do that. But
you could, but you would need to have like something to anchor to pull them in, right?
Yeah.
But still.
But either way, just a bunch of cheap heroes to like suicide into them with this spell.
There's another thing too. I mean, because you can bring in a Gaunt Summoner, right? So couldn't the Gaunt Summoner put something in the Silver Tower and then teleport down with them, and then also do that? I guess.
Yep.
Because that's kind of what I was thinking of for Zeech, and then also use my Destiny dice. And just be like, here we go. It's on now. And
then it just does 4 mortal wounds and the guy implodes and you're like, oh.
I mean, if it's, Hey, I truly am a Skaven player, so I'm okay with that too. Um, okay, okay. Eat an endless spell or a monster, not both. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so there. Honestly, though, this is like other than that, I'm not really a huge fan of the incarnate sort of, like trick to make him. I'm just. I mean, maybe I'm on my own, and you guys in the chat let me know how you feel, but like I'm still done with incarnates. Like I just am so tired of that model and seeing it in lists everywhere that I really hope it doesn't come back too strong into the meta.
Yeah, I think it is kind of a feel bad moment. Like, let's say you're playing against someone who's never played against an incarnate or doesn't even know what those are,
Yeah,
and they just go like, "Oh, that's crazy. That's in your army," and you go like, "No, no, it's actually this special other book that you have to have, and this other like thing, completely separate thing that I brought that few people know about." It's just it kind of sucks, and then if it just like rolls you and you just didn't know it existed, it's a little rough.
exactly. Ladivicus says I'll be seeing significantly more incarnates. That's probably true, but we don't know the points yet. So if it goes up even more, like if it goes up to 600, I don't know that it's worth it even then, frankly, just because like, it's not even a hero or anything. Yeah, I thank you. Horrible. Yes, that's how I feel. Um, oh, that's true. That's true. Keith says the battle scroll could have a revamp on the incarnate's war scroll itself. Yeah, that's another thing that could happen.
Very true.
Yeah. I did lower the volume of Carson's thing relative horrible, so let me know how we're doing for audio. I forgot to check at the start, but we didn't have enough people to really check it anyway. So let us know how we sound. And of course, we got some command traits. So spoiler alert, there's no artifacts in this one, which I was kind of sad to see, to be honest. But
Me too.
especially because like some armies just like still don't have good artifacts, like Cruel Boys. Hint, hint. So yeah. Anyway, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I'll just go down the list. So, Shaman of the Chilled Lands. I almost said Unchilled Lands for some reason. It's very unchill. This general knows all of the spells from Lore of Primal Frost, so pretty decent.
I like it just because, like, if you are like doing what I sometimes do and take Kragnos and then like a bunch of like Shaman, it's like, well, I got to give him a command trait anyway. So, and I'm not picking from the stupid Cruel Boys ones. So, like,
Yeah,
I can
that's
see
fair.
doing that, Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a crappy spell lore, then just using the GHB spell lore
Well,
is nice.
there's decent spell lore, but like, knowing, like, having access to everything, it's fun. I just love all those spells. So I think it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. For like Gaunt Summoner as well in Slaves to Darkness, I know just knows all of the spell lore anyway, so then you can
So
know all of both.
the Gaunt Summoner knows all the lore of, wait, is it change? No, I think it.
No, I'm talking Slaves to Darkness. It knows all of
Oh,
the lore of the Damned
oh,
as well.
okay. Oh, is that right?
At least the Gaunt Summoner on disc does. I'm not sure about the regular one.
I'm sure he does because like he knows
Yeah.
all the lore. He knows all the Arcanite lore in Zeech, whichever one that is, but he's a demon, so he can pick one from the demon lore. But like I usually have a bunch of demon casters, so it's not as valuable to me. Um, like Kairos is usually in my list, so yeah, I'm definitely picking Lore of Frost with my Gaunt Summoner, and frankly with a bunch of other ones too. Like I didn't realize a local guy, Tommy, said he pointed out that the Flux Master is no longer a character. Like I realized the Cursling was no longer a character, but I did not realize the Flux Master. Like they took all these characters from the old world and they're just like, now your general purpose. The Cursling was the weirdest one to me, but yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, like you're casting his War Scroll spell, but he is an Andorian Locust, which means if you give him the extra cast, it's like, here we go. Glad I brought this along. Like it's really exciting for me, to be honest. Like yeah,
That's fair.
yeah. Sorry. Anyway,
That's fair. No, it's okay. Eye of the Blizzard is the next one. At the start of your hero phase, if this general is on the battlefield, roll a dice. On a 5+, you gain 1 primal magic dice. This is bad, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If
Because
you're
it's on a
assuming
5
your
up.
general survives,
Yeah.
the entire game,
Yeah.
on average, you're only getting 2.5 primal dice for the cost of a command trait. Real bad.
Yeah.
Chilled to the bone. Once per battle, if this general suffers a miscast or primal miscast, who can roll a dice on a 3-up, this general can ignore the effects of that miscast or primal miscast. Also bad, in my opinion. In my opinion. Go ahead.
I don't think it's bad. I think the other one is worse. Eye of the Blizzard is definitely worse than Chill to the Bone, in my opinion, because like you can
I'll
go
agree with
for
you
it.
there.
You know what I mean?
Is, yeah.
Yeah. But sorry, and then Eater of Magic.
Oh yes, sorry. Eater of Magic. Each time this general successfully unbinds a spell, roll a dice on a 5+. The caster no longer knows that spell and may not cast again for the rest of the battle. This is amazing. Like it's fantastic.
This is insane, dude. Like I think I'm gonna take this on my Gaunt Summoner. Before I was taking Demon Spark, which is just +3 fate points, but this is just like, hi Scragrot, 2d6 means I unbind your crap already, and then maybe you don't get to cast ever again. What?
Yeah.
That's
it's nuts.
That's insane. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can stack your primal magic dice onto your general just for unbinding for the sole purpose of shutting down your opponent for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And like they're super nice spells.
Yeah. Oh look, you forgot Protection of Hish. LRL. Okay, I guess I die now. Yeah, I mean Protection of Hish or anything like that. Why do they make you roll a 3+? It wouldn't be out of bounds if you just got to ignore miscasts for that one.
I totally agree.
I agree with you. Yeah. Or even honestly, a 2-up would have changed things dramatically for me. Where it's like
even that stop locking things behind once per game and a dice roll. That's so like I hate this trend that's happening. Where like they
right.
What?
That's true. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. Yeah, if it's once
like
per
if
battle,
can already only do it once per game.
That's so true.
Why is it's like once per game something just doesn't happen.
You guys are so right. I didn't even remember, to be honest, that it was once per game, and that's why I'm now fully with you. It is just bad. It's really bad.
Thank you.
Honestly, though, I don't know. Like, I think I probably take Eater of Magic. But
I could see it for Shaman of the Chilled Lands too.
Yeah,
okay.
Like with my Gaunt Summoner, because sometimes I just run out of spells to cast for because I'm playing Zeech or whatever. So yeah, I think it depends on the army, you know. But for Zeech, I'm almost certainly going to take one of these from now on. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, sorry guys. If I miss anything, let me know. I'm okay. So we've gone through that. We're good, I think, right? Okay, core battalions. One of these is not like the other, Carson, but one of these just doesn't belong. Andorian Acolytes, I do like at the start of the hero phase. So you need 3 Andorian Locusts that are, you just need 3 Andorian Locusts essentially, right? So not named characters, 9 or less wounds, doesn't matter if they're mounted or not, etc. The start of the hero phase, if there are 2 or more friendly Andorian Locust units on the battlefield, roll a dice. On a 3-up, you gain 1 primal magic dice. That seems really good. Because it says the hero phase, not your hero phase. So you're adding a lot. Theoretically, you're adding a lot of dice to your pool.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
You do need, like, there's only 3 of these bozos, and 2 of them have to be alive. So if you kill off 2 of them, then they don't get to do this anymore. But okay. I don't know. Like, it just seems really strong to me. You know? Yeah. Eater of Magic is fine only on Andorian Locust, and only if it is your general, and only if your general specifically stops that spell. It's true. I really think it depends on the army. I think it's really good in Zeech, though. Like, I really do. where I could just choose to every time I want to unbind something. But yeah.
Yeah. It's particularly good on like 2 unbind heroes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I actually was really enjoying the Curseling because I was just like, okay, I I can just choose to unbind with my Destiny dice, and then he gets to if he unbinds something, the Curseling automatically can cast Gleam Magic, where he can essentially steal spells. So you would kind of get 2 kicks at that can with him, or you could get 1 kick at the can with one guy and 1 kick at the can with Curseling. I just think it's dope in general. Anyway, so yeah, there's not too much to say about Andorian Acolytes, is there? Like, it's good.
Nope, it's pretty cut and dry.
Doesn't add too much to your drops. Like, so you could go 1 drop plus this and for 4 drops. So you're, I don't know how much it's going to be in the meta, frankly. But like on average of getting 2 extra Destiny dice or Primordial Casting dice, Binding dice or whatever per battle round is, that's an extra, 4? No, more than that.
I would take this in really heavy casting armies, for sure. Because I think those are the armies where optimal focus matters less.
Right.
Because you don't necessarily care about 1 additional cast if you already have like 8, right?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that because this is probably sacrificing your ability to choose to go second on the first battle round, right? 4 is in the territory where if someone's building like optimized for 1 or 2 drops, then they're going to beat you every time.
Absolutely. The Slann and Croak do not get unlimited unbinds. They have unlimited unbind range. Horrible. There's no range on their unbinds, but the Slann has 3 and the Croak has 4.
Unbinds? 3 unbinds?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the Slann has 3 casts, 3 unbinds. I mean, they taught the elves magic, Carson.
No, I know. Lore-wise, it makes sense, but that's terrifying. They are like the target for that Eater of Magic.
They're super good. Yeah, because
command trait.
That's so true. Yeah, that's. I think it's still better on Zeech. I think it's still better on Zeech. But yeah, it's. I think Slann are amazing for that. Absolutely agreed. Yeah, that'd be really fun. And they don't really have that great command traits now that I think about it. So yeah, maybe I might try that out actually. Okay, Magic Hunters. So this has 1 basically Galatian Champion non-wizard. Or no, not Galatian Champion because they can be mounted, right? I don't think it says anything about mounts. With a wound characteristic of 10 or less.
Does not have a mount.
Does not have a mount. Okay, that is in there. Why did they bring that back for that? Like, that was so stupid. So you can't do this with like the guy on disc or anyway, whatever.
Yep. Your disc is too cool for this battalion. Get out of here.
I swear to God, that's like copy pasted, and they just didn't remember that it was in there. I legit think that. Okay, so it's 1 Galatian Champion non-wizard in Wizard Finders of Andor. Minimum 1 unit of troops. You can have up to 2 troops and 1 behemoth. So each time a unit in this battalion is picked to fight, so this happens in the combat phase, you can say that it will go on a wizard hunt. If you do so, pick 1 melee weapon profile on that unit's war scroll. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of that melee weapon, but all of the attacks that unit makes in that phase must target an enemy wizard. That's really, like, it's interesting. I don't think we're going to see it that much.
Yeah. Just to clarify, I see that the wizard, or sorry, the champion and the 1 infantry are definitely like fully colored in black.
Yeah.
Those are mandatory. Are the other 2 mandatory as well, or are those optional?
They're optional.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I thought that all 4 were mandatory, and that made it much worse in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I still don't know. Like, so yeah. If you had to have a monster, like, what if I don't have a monster, you jerks? Like, some armies just don't have a behemoth non-leader.
Behemoth non-leader is a pretty big thing too, because like a lot of armies will have monsters that are leaders. Like for myself, Stonehorn, for instance, I I don't think Gits has access to any.
Yep, they do.
Do they?
Yep, like the
Mangler squig?
Arachnarok,
Oh, right.
the Mangler
Spiders.
Squigs.
Yep, that's true. I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Bye.
Wait a second. Yeah, the Manglers are monsters. Yeah.
Yeah. Stonehorn, there is like a non-leader version as well, but it definitely limits your list choices.
It does.
Right?
Yeah. If you had
But-
to include it, this would be
Yeah.
Garbagi for sure.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's really good in some armies, like if against some armies rather. Like if you're facing Zeech or you're facing LRL, you're just like, this whole army almost are wizards. Like I can't.
Or someone brings Alariel, and you're
Oh,
like, cool.
jeez, yeah.
I'm just gonna kill that.
I mean, if they're bringing Alariel, then they're not trying to win anyway. So give them a break, you know. Just let them have it. But I mean, like that army has a lot of monster, or actually just wizards in general as well. Like the Tree Lord Ancient. You know, there's so many. I mean, like there's a lot of that in the game for sure. Like, I don't know. It's just the only problem though is it's like, okay, like if you're taking this, you're not taking it on. You're not just taking the minimum, right? You're probably taking at least 2 troop choices plus the hero guy or gal or whatever. So then it's like, okay, well then I'm increasing my you know what? Without the monster, it's the same as the acolytes, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it depends. Like I could see someone, let's say they're building for a warlord battalion and they're saying, I don't care about drops, I just want to get as many enhancements as I can, kind of thing.
Yep.
And then they have an extra hero and infantry. Might as well.
That's
right?
a good point. You know, it can't be a wizard, so in some armies that makes things difficult.
Yeah.
Like in Skaven, for example. I mean, I guess they could take a Deathmaster. They're just so overpriced right now, but I guess that could change. Yeah, it's interesting. You know,
it's pretty nice because like most of the other ones that are like 2 things,
Yeah.
2 like a hero and a unit of some kind is like Vanguard, which is like a once per game reroll charge.
Yep.
I think there's what else, like an artillery battalion or something like that. There's most of them are like once per game things, like you get an extra Unleash Hell or something like that. This is literally every time, every combat phase they can do this.
It's true.
So you're basically allocating 2 units to just like shred a hero or shred a wizard, any wizards they encounter.
Right.
So I could actually see this having play if you're not optimizing for 1 drop.
That's true. I would like to try this in a battle report, and just see how it goes, you know? But yeah. Bahamut said Doomwheel Hell Pit. I was thinking Hell Pit, because of that profile. And then you throw like, it has 2 different profiles that you could throw on, Hoarfrost onto it as well. And then you're just like, oh my God, it is killing all of the things. Yeah. Gutter runners. Oh, that's a great point. It's only melee, but that's a great point. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I don't
now,
have.
the only thing is, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's not important.
I was going to say the only thing is that the caveat is that when you do this, all of the attacks have to go on that wizard.
Yeah, but it's in the combat phase, so it's like, okay, well, I'm already here.
Yeah, but sometimes you grab a bunch of stuff, right?
Yep.
Like you tie up a whole bunch of things, and most of the time a wizard is not particularly tough.
That's true. So like I said, like I really think it'll depend on the situation. Like Lord of Change, like it just gets you those extra attacks to do the deed, or there's like I had a bunch of thought, you know, like a Tree Lord Ancient casting in the back, a unit of like LRL Stone Guard guys. I think those guys are magic users too. I could be wrong, but like if not, like Wardens, Sentinels, like whatever, name your thing, right? Squigs, high
That's
drops, totally fight on death, absolutely. You know, you know, there's a few different things I think where it works. I think it might be okay in Iden of Deepkin. So, yeah. Because you can go on eels. You can pick like a whatever the soul scryer and like 2 units of eels. And if the rumor is true about that, like the new coherency thing that we heard about through that tournament, then like units of 6 eels are finally back, so that's exciting. You know, Yeah.
Yeah. Or horrible's right too. You can just choose not to do this as
You
well.
could
Like
just
it's
choose not to
optional.
do it. Absolutely. Like that's one of the great things. The only time where it's gonna feel kind of bad is like when you're facing corn or whatever, where they don't have one, and then you're just like, ugh. But that's always gonna be the case. You know what I mean? Like, it was the same thing with sharpshooters, and sharpshooters people liked. So I don't think this is gonna be nearly as popular as sharpshooters though for armies that even kind of access it well. But anyway. Um, actually really like what you said, Carson, about how if you are if you're going high drops anyway, it's like, well, I can just fit this in here and it's not costing me anything. So yeah, I think
Might
that
as well, yeah.
I think that was a good point. Grand strategies. Okay, now we're getting into it. Would you be so kind as to read them?
Sure.
Thank you.
Of course. So going down the list, control the Nexus. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy. If 2 or more friendly wizard units are wholly within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield,
It's not.
depends on your army.
It depends on your army. It's
Yeah.
not Andorian locusts. I just want to point that out.
Yep,
Which is good.
that's very true. Once again, I keep bringing up Slaves to Darkness Kabbalists. It's probably because I play the army, but since literally every hero in your army becomes a wizard, this is actually a pretty good one, right?
Yep.
Because you could have like 6 or 7 wizards essentially. Like 2 of them will probably survive, and just throw them at the center of the battlefield by the end, and you're good.
If 2 of them don't survive, then you're probably pretty screwed anyway.
Yeah. Next one, Spellcasting Savant. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy. If the model picked to be your general is an Andorian Locust and it has not been slain.
I don't think so. It just puts such a huge target on their back that you probably don't want anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Slaughter of Sorcery. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are no wizard units on the battlefield. So this, it's kind of interesting because if you go up against someone who doesn't bring wizards, then you just auto get your grand strategy.
Right.
So if you go up against like Horn, congratulations, here's your 3 victory points. See you next Tuesday, right? Like it's
whoa.
So it's not bad, actually.
That's actually, I didn't think about that.
Actually, I think if you're leaning into not having spell casting, then this is not a bad idea, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can certainly like get kind of screwed over, depending on who you're facing.
Right.
But yeah, if you don't have better options, then it's not a terrible option.
And if you're taking that battalion as well, you could kind of like make it the focus of your army.
Yeah.
Like
because every person that you encounter that doesn't have wizards, you just auto get it, and they can't do anything about it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Next one, Baron Icescape. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy. If all enemy units that have artifacts of power are destroyed, and there are no enemy units within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, this is just bad. I think
Alex just pointed something out. I just don't want to forget. It doesn't say friendly units, so you couldn't take this in, like Zeech, for example. Slaughter.
No, I know. Yeah. I'm saying if you're playing
Corn or something that already doesn't have it.
Yeah,
right.
Then it's not bad. Because again, if you go up against another Corn opponent or another, because certainly some people are going to lean into not having wizards. If they didn't have great spell casting already, they might lean into. I could see that being more common than it was previously.
Yeah.
So it's not terrible. It's definitely a gamble.
Totally. Bahamut says KO, as well.
Yep.
He said Corn and the KO, but that Giants.
Yeah, and you will encounter all 3 of those armies.
For sure.
Or sorry, well, not necessarily Giants, but KO and Corn.
We might start seeing Giants more now. They were a popular army just because they're easier to play at tournament and that kind of thing. And I mean, I don't even go into tournaments, so I don't like to just talk about tournaments. So, but it's very interesting. Sorry, I did interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
But
I'll just
want to point that out. Thank you. Sorry.
Baron Icescape. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy. If all enemy units that have artifacts of power are destroyed, and there are no enemy units within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, this is bad.
This is bad. Yeah,
it's really bad.
Yeah, it's bad. Okay.
Real bad. Not going to elaborate why. Overshadow.
Sorry. Before you go on to that, I almost forgot it twice in a row. Control the Nexus. If you have like Slaves to Darkness, for example, with your Kabbalist. If one of them is a Zeech wizard, you could use the Zeech spell to pull that person into the center of the battlefield at the end of the game to get this, right? So that's just kind of a, that was just something I thought about. Anyway, sorry, go on.
No, it's Overshadow. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy. If all enemy battle line units from your opponent's starting army are destroyed, and there's at least one friendly battle line unit from yours starting army on the battlefield, chances are you probably have access to a better grand strategy than this.
Yes.
So you should probably just take that.
Yep.
Magic Made Manifest. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are 2 or more endless spells or incarnates on the battlefield that are controlled by or bonded to a friendly unit. Is the wording 2 endless spells or 2 incarnates, or a combined total of 2?
I think that actually needs an FAQ, to be honest, at least just for clarification. I would read it as one or the other. Like if you have an incarnate and an endless spell, you're okay, or 2 of either.
I think that's certainly what they meant, but
I think so.
No rules is written.
Yeah, but if you've read any of their, like, pretty much any of their stuff, like there's usually a lot of like,
I think this one is actually the. And they are controlled by or bonded to friendly units. Okay, never mind. This isn't. I was gonna say this is the opposite of Slaughter of Sorcery,
right.
Where if you go up against an army that doesn't have any spell casting, but then again, it's still worse because they can heroic willpower and just get rid of it.
Totally.
So this is pretty bad.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Pretty bad. Okay.
Pretty bad.
Horrible says he would pick spellcasting Savant because he has bodyguards. That's interesting. I mean, I could see it like on a Slan. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, like if they get into your back where the Slan is kind of slinging spells from, they kill your bodyguard unit and the Slan as well, then, Or, I mean, I don't know what Horrible plays, but probably not Seraphon. But like I get it. I get what you're saying. I think it really depends on the army, of course. Oh man, I don't know. Honestly, if I'm picking, like, shoot, like the Skaven ones are bad, so I have to pick something from here probably, right? You know what I would probably pick is Control the Nexus, just because of like Skitterleap.
How many wizards do you usually take?
In Skaven, like at least 4.
Okay.
And it just says wizard too, so like, I could plunk that Screaming Bell down in the middle of the battlefield. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying I'm taking Screaming Bell, but I could, I could take that. I could take a Vermin Lord. The Vermin Lords are all wizards. Dreaded Skitterleap on my main Vermin Lord, so, and he can teleport other Vermin Lords. Like, there's some play there. It really depends on the army. Like, for Zeech, for example, and I don't know why I keep using Zeech as, I mean, I guess it's the magic focused thing, but you're never taking this for Zeech because they have the best grand strategy in the entire game. It's just non-interactable. Like, I could just choose whether I get it or not. So
Fire Slayers as well have a really good one too, I think.
Do they? Yeah.
Where it's like you just don't get rid of one of their endless prayers.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Zeech one is just, I have 9 or more points of destiny dice. So like I could have one dice that's a 5 and one that's a 4. You just set that aside at the start of the game and you're just like, okay, I have 7 dice to work with. Now what do I do?
Yep.
Right? So anyway. Access to spellcasting Savant. I like it. Isn't take what's there still available? I think you can only use the ones here or the ones in your book, Bahamut.
Can you not use the core rule ones?
I don't think so, because you can't use the core rules battle tactics.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. Interesting.
I'm 99% sure everything replaces it, because the old ones, the ones that are in the core rulebook are almost all of them are way easier than this.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm like 99% sure. Different
Yeah,
battle pack. Yeah.
whichever one you want to pick of these, it does really depend on your army. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, Control the Nexus is like almost auto take for LRL, isn't it? Because like a lot of their units are wizards.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's a great point.
just, just be in the center of the battlefield and you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, Horrible says he'd take what's there. He'd take what's theirs in a heartbeat. Yeah, if you had access to it. So, yeah, yeah. And as Keith said, it's a different battle pack. So, unfortunate. Shall we move on? Or actually, it really does depend. I wasn't sure if we were going to pick some, but it so depends on the army.
It really
right?
depends.
Yeah. Like,
to be like, as an ogres player, I wouldn't pick any of these. I would just take Ready for Plunder, which is essentially take what's theirs.
Totally.
Except for ogres.
That's so true. And like, yeah, like some of my armies, like they've got such good ones and other ones such bad ones that, yeah, you can't really make a general recommendation. Okay.
Yeah.
Battle tactics. This is where things get spicy. Yeah.
One last thing on grand strategies.
Please.
I think my pick for the coolest one is probably Slaughterer of Sorcery, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Just because
absolutely.
If neither opponent has wizards, it's kind of like a haha, I got it kind of thing. Just like a freebie, like you rub your hands together and there you go. And if they do have it, then it's thematic because you're like, I'm hunting those guys down. Like,
I wanted to say that, like, as someone who just likes killing things, it's more fun for me. It's just like, even if they have wizards, it's like, okay, my strategy is the same as it always is, which is to kill things to win. Like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. Okay. So, battle tactics. Things get crazy here. These are by far the most difficult set of battle tactics I think we've ever seen. I like them for two reasons. I don't like them for new players. Actually, first let me get the bad out of the way. I don't think they're good for new players. I think if you're introducing someone to the game, don't use this battle tactic. Use the core rules. 100%.
Yeah.
like I just did that. Sorry.
I'm going to be right back. Headset's still on so I can hear you, but cool. I'm just getting some water.
No worries. So that's the bad out of the way, right? The good, I'm going to say, is that they're the hardest they've ever been. So I like that. Actually, there's one more bad thing, but that it ties into that. So because they are the hardest they've ever been overall, it makes whether you have good or bad battle tactics in your book that much more important. So the haves have more and the have-nots have less. And I don't like that, right? Yeah, these tactics are second in difficulty to the SCE and the Skaven ones, Alex, actually. I still think the Skaven have the worst ones in the game. But yes, and like there's actually a bunch of armies that like really don't have good battle tactics. And that's what that's the only thing that I don't like about this. I wish there was more of a mix. I wish there was like 2 or 3 easy ones, and then you can anyway, putting that aside, the thing that I like the most about it is it doesn't lean into the season as much. Like the last season we had Galatian champions, and if you didn't have Galatian champions, aka, giants or whatever, then it's just like, okay, 4 of these I can't do because I don't have any Galatian champions. And that just kind of feels bad for everyone, I think. That's generally my thoughts. Do you have anything to add about that, Carson, at all?
I don't think they're like quite as hard as people are saying. Like some of them are pretty hard, but
yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not saying that they're like crazy hard. I'm just saying I do think that they are the hardest we've ever had.
I can't speak to that because I'm really only familiar with the last 2 GHBs. So
fair, but like if you take turn 1, you can probably do cunning maneuver, right? Like there's
this one you can probably do intimidate the invaders or magical dominance if you put your hero in the back, like your wizard way back.
So I've kind of seen a mixture of that, and it does depend on the layout of the, like if you take intimidate or if the other person takes turn 1 and they have any kind of like board control army, you might never get this because like I have times where I just don't get out of my deployment.
That's true.
Depending on the map,
it is very army dependent.
It really is. It's army and map, and drop.
That's true. But one thing I do agree with is that it's far less reliant on. Actually, I don't think there's any Andorian locust
Nothing.
specific battle tactics,
Nothing.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because there's one grand strategy. You can interact with it with optimal focus, and then you get access to the command traits, and that's it.
Right. Right.
There's
Yeah.
no other huge focus on it, like Galatian Champions, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Oh, and some battle plans reference Endorian Locus sometimes too, but I assume those won't be super competitive.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah, they're kind of their own ball of wax, aren't they? Can do 2 or 3 of these reasonably easy. They might just be a different 2 or 3 than another faction. No, I agree. Overall, that was what I was trying to say. Actually, was that I do, as a general rule, really like them overall, just not for new players, and whatever. Magical Dominance and Magical Mayhem seems to be the only ones that some armies just can't do. Well, we'll go through them one at a time here. I'll read the first one. Carson talked about it earlier. Intimidate the invaders. You complete this battle tactic if at the end of the turn, if there are more friendly units wholly outside your territory than there are friendly units within your territory. So the one thing to be careful of is that one says wholly within and the other one just says within. So if they are even a pinch in, then they count as within. So they have to be wholly without to count in the way that you want them to.
I have a question about this. How does this interact with reserves?
Well, it just says if at the end of your turn there are more friendly units. So it doesn't say that you have to move out. It doesn't say they have to start out. Or like there's, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't say they have to start within your territory or anything like that. So I don't.
So if you're like Stormcast or Beasts of Chaos or something, this is an extremely easy one for you.
Absolutely, as far as I can tell, unless they FAQ it. I mean, as written anyway. Yeah. I think this is one of the easier ones for sure. And it really just depends on the army, the situation, the battle map, or whatever. But
yeah, the map too for sure.
Map, a big deal. Would you like to read the evens?
Sure thing.
Cool.
Reprisal, you complete this battle tactic if an enemy unit that destroyed a friendly general earlier in the battle is destroyed this turn. This is super situational, but definitely doable.
Yeah.
Like if someone just like absolutely yeets something into your back line and just kills your general, you're like, all right, well, I guess I'll deal with this and get this battle tactic for free and then move on. That's totally doable in that scenario, but
so true.
Sometimes it just doesn't come up.
Yep. You could accidentally blow up your own general.
Yep.
Super easy, especially if they're a wizard. Or like you could get killed by like a what do you call it? A Bastillodon with solar engine from the back who's rocking like 12 wounds on a 2-up save, -1 damage, potentially even like a 5-up ward. Like, yeah, but yeah, like it's as you said, it's super situational, but like, if a unit of clan rats with Hoarfrost charge in and happen to off your general, you're like, okay, this is pretty easy.
Yeah. The nice thing is that this says, it specifies an enemy unit that destroyed a friendly general earlier in the battle. So you have this in your back pocket for the rest of the battle if a unit kills your general, which is nice.
Oh, you know what? I just read
it's not like eye for an eye.
That's how I read it. That's so funny. I just totally breezed through that. That's so true. So you don't have to do it the next turn. So it's not that. Yeah, that actually makes it much more viable. Oh, it's a great catch. Pee on a tree. Yeah. Desecrate their lands was getting a bit much, wasn't it? And it will be a fun change. I totally agree. Horrible. Okay. Endless expropriation. Pick one enemy unit that is controlling or bonded. Oh, yep.
One more thing. Sorry.
Yes, please.
This becomes more viable as you bring additional generals as well, like Thankwall, Archaon, etc., etc.
Good call. Yeah, like Virkos bloodline.
Yep.
It's like they're all generals, so.
Yep.
Ooh, that's so cool. Friendly general. It doesn't say the model picked to be their general or anything like that. That's another great catch.
Anyway, sorry.
Sheesh.
Continue.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. So pick one enemy unit that is controlling or bonded to an endless spell or incarnate. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if any of the following are true. That enemy unit has been destroyed. The endless spell is wild. The endless spell is controlled or bonded to a friendly unit. That incarnate is wild. So
This is more situational, but it's definitely still possible.
it's a little bit of word salad too. I'm not really a huge fan of how they've written this, but
Yeah.
um, and I think I'm understanding this correctly. So there's a unit that's bonded to an endless spell, right? So then you
Or
pick
incarnate.
yes. So then you pick this, right? For example, like let's just say that there's a bombardier and it's got Ravenix Gnashing Jaws, right? So you pick that at the start of your turn, right? And then so that gets picked. They are currently controlling the endless spell, right?
Yep.
So then as long as you kill that bombardier, then you get it, right?
Yep. So it's an or. Like you can do any one of these things.
Right.
So the ways that you can interact with this is you could simply kill the unit that is bonded to that endless spell or incarnate.
Yeah.
You could use like rupture to just make it wild if you wanted to.
Right.
You could do, I'm not sure what other means you have to make something wild, but you could do that as well. I know there are some abilities in the game that like steal endless spells essentially.
Yep.
You could do that if you wanted to. So there's a bunch of different options for what you could do. Yeah.
So someone was saying, or I think it was Matthias was saying, if you choose this, then they can just always dispel their own endless spell. Because that happens at the start of the turn. So you choose that. You go through, like, let's say I'm controlling Skaven, because that's more likely the scenario we already set up, right? So then you say I'm going to do endless expropriation, I think, on that unit controlling that endless spell. So then I say, okay, I'm going to try and, so that happens at the start of the hero phase, and then so we go through all of your start of the hero phase stuff, and then we go to my start of the hero phase stuff, which would be picking my heroic action, and then also dispelling an endless spell, which I believe happens at the start of the hero phase, right? So then that would make it less likely for...
Oh, you're saying you could deny someone this.
You could deny someone this by...
Yeah.
But then you could still kill that wizard, because they were controlling the endless spell at the start, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's most of what we're gonna see interaction wise with this. Is just like that wizard's wide open and he's controlling this endless spell, so I'm just gonna kill him.
Totally.
Right.
Oh, and
go ahead.
I like what Bahamut said. Move the caster out of range of their endless spell. So you could, I guess with like Beasts of Chaos, you could do the get over here if they're like already on the cusp, and just pull them out of range maybe. That's interesting. When they pick this one,
nice.
If your wizard lives, no battle tactic. Totally. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to go through. But it's interesting. I don't know. I just think they made it more complicated than necessary. Like, I think it should have just been endless spell or incarnate, and then if that endless spell or incarnate is if the wizard is dead, you get this. If the endless spell is no longer on the board, you get this. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit more clear, a little bit more.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. A list of 4 things.
Yeah.
A list of any 4 things is kind of weird for a battle tactic.
I don't think a battle tactic should be like 6 or 7 sentences, multiple paragraphs. You know, if you're using a colon in a battle tactic, you're doing it wrong. I'll just say that. Okay. You know,
nobody likes colons.
I mean, no, especially not colon cancer. Oh my, don't even get me started on that.
Jeez. Moving on. Magical dominance. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if a friendly wizard unit successfully cast 1 or more spells and none of the spells cast by any units in your army were unbound. So effectively, when you want to do this, is either 2 situations. Number 1, it's the very start of the game and you're on the opposite side of the board from your opponent and they can't possibly unbind anything that you do.
That's happened in every game I've played so far.
Yep. So do it. Number 2 is that if you're facing an opponent that just has no means of unbinding it, so maybe that means that all of their heroes are dead. Well, basically all of their heroes are dead. That's
Right.
the caveat. If you
Yep.
kill all their heroes, then you can use this as well. It's like an end game thing.
Yep.
So it's doable. You know, if
It's
you have
not just
casting.
that. There's ways of like, I keep going back to Zeech, and I apologize, but you could just. I mean, the thing is you don't want to do this with Zeech most of the time. Like I've been playing most of my games with Zeech, but and so if you can do this turn 1 where there's nothing in range, then you're laughing, right? But if not, then because you can't let any of the spells go. It did get dark. I'm sorry. That's that macabre sense of humor that you've come to know and love, hopefully. But like, there's another way of doing it too. It's like, okay, I know I have a primordial dice that happened at the start of the turn. I'm Zeech, 2 6s, primordial dice, boom, you can't stop me. But then that means that I can't cast any more other spells that I have to worry about. So there's a huge trade-off, but there is ways of doing it and almost guaranteeing it, even outside of that. Like Teclis, he could just be like, I'm casting only 1 spell, and you can't unbind it. So, na boo boo, yeah, right. Stick your head in dog do. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this one's an interesting one. Actually, I think it's one of the more interesting ones.
I agree. Yeah, and it can be pretty easy.
It can.
I would say for a lot of armies, it can be really easy.
Yep.
If you only have like 3 casts or something like that, and it's the start of the game, and you don't like some of them are just useless because they're interacting with enemies, then sure, it's super easy. But
exactly. And the other thing too is like it actually, I like this one with the idea that like if you give the person the top of the turn, for a lot of the time you're going to be giving them a battle tactic, like, which happened to me constantly. I don't think I got to choose a single like who goes first in any of the games I've played so far. They've given me the top of the turn every game that I've played so far, and in every game I did this top of turn 1 and I got it. You know, and so it is a trade-off. And like, you know, if you're, because this game plays for points, right? So and then I move up and I can unbind their stuff, so they don't get to do that, you know. So anyway, yeah, I think it's a cool one. Magical Mayhem. Pick 1 enemy unit on the battlefield. You complete this tactic if that unit is destroyed by damage inflicted by a spell or the abilities of an endless spell. Thoughts?
this is very situational.
Very, 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 very. Yeah. I tried to do it with Zeech against Gitz, and you'd think Zeech would be uniquely placed to do this with all their access to damage spells. And everything went wrong for me, and I didn't get it. Actually, it was partially though that I didn't realize that like most of my damage, I picked 1 unit to do it on, and I didn't realize at the time that most of my units were slightly out of range to do it to a unit of Fellwater Trolls. But yeah, that's the break.
I think this is the spell you cast in like turn 3 when one of your enemy units is just like on its last legs. Maybe you have an endless spell out there like Ravanax. Maybe you have a caster that can just like even Arcane Bolt or something like that.
Right.
This is when you cast it for just like a free battle tactic, but it's very, very situational as well.
Yeah.
The only time I can see you maybe casting at turn 1 is if you're doing like a slam bomb or something with Croak.
Yep.
Then sure, but most of the time, yeah, it's like mid-game sort of battle tactic in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I don't think I used mine very well, but it's given me some ideas about what maybe to take different endless spells with certain armies. Your army only has a single caster. Set it up outside of 30 inch. Cast your Mystic Shield. Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of different ways of doing this that I really like, but it does sort of emphasize taking the top of the turn, battle round 1, which is like so nice because that's one of the bigger issues I think right now in general is it's so emphasized, giving it away. So cool.
Number 6, bait and trap. You complete this battle tactic if 2 or more friendly units retreated this turn, and 2 or more different friendly units made a charge move this turn. This is pretty tough to pull off, but I actually did it in my game against Kenrick.
Nice.
First game that we used, I remember reading it too and be like, no one's ever going to use that. And then the very first game I play, I managed to actually pull it off.
Yeah, I like it.
But it's not something I would have normally done had it not been like that this battle tactic existed, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I would have just kept those units in combat
Right.
had this battle tactic not existed. So it's not. I think this one's not great in my opinion for most armies.
I agree. I'm kind of sad that I get that thematically they have to do it this way because of the name, but I wish that it wasn't two different friendly units. Because for the rare times where some armies have retreat and charge, it would have been cool to just retreat out and then go back in. But I think this was pretty good for Night Haunt, because you can just have units retreat and it's not really taking away because the whole army can retreat and charge. And then it doesn't say that they can't charge in. It just says that 2 other units made a charge.
That's true.
So you pick 2 units to retreat and then 2 other units to charge in. So there's some armies that this actually works really well with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fair actually. So
It'll probably be pretty good.
Situational once again.
It is very situational. I think it'll be quite good with maybe Deepkin, maybe like in turn 4 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Okay, then. Let's see here. Where are we looking at? Now it's 7?
7, yeah.
Okay. Led into the Maelstrom. You complete this battle tactic if 1 or more friendly heroes and 1 or more friendly battle line units each made a charge move this turn, and at least one of those units is within 3 inches of an enemy unit at the end of the turn. So you can't kill everything that you get into. That's sort of the rub here. Yeah. Luckily, they don't need to be near each other. It's not like the hero has to go in together with that unit. So you could have one on the battle, like one that goes into clan rats or something stupid, and you can not all out attack and just do whatever you need to do to make them survive. And then, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just thinking with my ogre brain here, but this is like an incredibly easy one to get just because I kind of just want to be stuck in combat.
Yep.
Or not stuck in combat, but like I expect that when I throw something at my opponent, like something is going to stay in combat for a little while.
Right.
I could see ways of denying this if your opponent like lost a whole bunch of units and they value. So rather than keeping so previously it's actually it would be more valuable for them to like keep 3 or 4 models in combat with whatever you charged.
Yep.
By like forcing them to pass battle shock, but
Yep.
with this they could deny you that by just not doing that and
Totally.
making them fail.
Totally. Yeah, there's a bunch of things. I can't repeat what Dan said. Welcome, Dan. It's been a while. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about the new GHB. The ward rolls are optionals. Most of the time, yeah. I think there are examples when they're not, but yes, that's a great thing to remember actually, because you could really deny some battle tactics that way as well, which happened quite a bit at some of the recent tournaments. It's like a big thing.
Yeah, Alex did it to me at Kicker Day.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of actually. Good job, Alex. You jerk. But seriously, good job. Yeah.
And then
this is, I think, probably the most common one that's going to be achieved. Like it's a lot less situational because you always have heroes, you always have units, yeah.
And chances are you don't completely wipe something, right? And usually multi-charge, it's usually stuck in combat for a bit, and it only says one of them has to be in combat, which is really nice. So
exactly,
pretty easy to achieve. Number 8, surround and destroy. Pick 3 different friendly units on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if each of those units is wholly within 6 inches of a different battlefield edge, and 2 or more of those units are wholly outside your territory.
Ugh. Again, I don't know. I don't know. This one's dumb.
There's only one. Yeah, there's only one kind of play thing, which is I saw this discussed, which is that what if you put your unit in a corner, right? does it count as being within 6 inches of both of those battlefield edges? So that's 2 out of the 3 battlefield edges that you need to be by?
Oh, jeez. Pick 3 different friendly units on the battlefield. So you have to pick 3 different friendly units. You complete this battle tactic if at the end of turn, each of those units is within 6 inches of a different battlefield edge. And 2 are wholly outside your territory. I don't know. I don't think that works because they each of them have to be. I mean, like if he's in the corner, if they're in the corner, you can choose for them to be counting towards that. Oh, I see. But you're saying, do you have to be wholly outside of 6 inches of the one that that they're covering, right? So like if this is
Or do you have to pick one?
right? Yeah, that might make this even harder and even dumber depending on how it goes. Yo, Dan, thank you so much. Sorry. I didn't want to.
Either way, it makes it. Yeah, it's a really difficult battle tactic to do.
And it's
not.
And it's dumb. Surround the enemy. Like, oh yeah, run to the outside of the battlefield. Like, cool. The glory when I got to roll 22d6 for Scraggy's War Scroll spell last Saturday. Glory to the bad moon indeed. My God.
Alex, I think he means he rolled a casting value of 22.
Yes, and then he rolled 22 3-ups for his. Oh my God, that's insane. So there's a rumor, Dan. I know you weren't here earlier, but that I think Carson heard, and he was saying that there's like a rumor that like what was it again? Like that they're gonna maybe put a cap on it.
Primal dice won't count towards that amount. Like it'll still allow you to get the spell off, but it won't count towards the amount for like Scragrot's spell, for instance. So you'd be able to get that high.
I hope that's not true, but
yeah, the more I think of it, the more I agree that I hope it's not true as well.
Yeah,
just because you're blowing all of your primal dice on that one cast at that point.
And it's fun. Like, I know GW says are the no fun police, but god dang, like let us nuclear launch detected. Yeah, that is so true. And with the War Song Revenant, like arguably even more so because it's every unit within range of like the trees or whatever you can do it through. Like you could just decimate a whole friggin' area like that's around trees. They disappear after each battle round. I see what I get it now. Okay, yeah. You're learning Sylvaneth out of fascination with them. I'm wondering if this year of the Magic Turkey cult and wondering about anti-wizard spam chaos. Yeah, like all of these things are true. I'm also learning Sylvaneth. I'm building a Sylvaneth army right now and planning stuff out. So they look really fun actually. Cap it at 12. Well, right now it's unmodified, so he's capped at 13 right now because he has +1. But still, I don't know. I'm saying don't cap it. It's too much fun. Yeah, I want to be crazy. Exactly. No, it's fine, Alex. You be quiet. Get back in your corner. Or wherever you paint. Yeah, I mean, the battle tactics are interesting. Overall, I think it's going to be a very tactical year. Like, I think it's going to be interesting. The people that kind of figure out how to get around these quickly are going to do well, and then everyone's going to copy what they do probably. But but this is deeper, and this is less about like planning and list building than it is about experience and actual generalship. I think, which is cool. Like I think the more they make it about reacting to the situation that's going on at the time, the more I'm going to enjoy it and do well because I'm not about research.
I agree with that for sure, because there's something to be said about someone who is a mediocre player but just kind of takes whatever won at the most recent tournament.
Yeah.
And does extremely well with it. Like I like that there's more generalship, absolutely, where you have to kind of like really decide in the moment, do I want to do this thing? Is it the right choice? Like, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think this GHB is really good for competition, and it's like alleviated a lot of the concerns I had because I appreciated the previous GHB a lot, or I guess the current GHB, because this one isn't out yet, where like it, in my opinion, it's very good, very competitive, a lot of fun. But I think this is going to be like maybe even more so until somebody finds that one sweet spot combo that's just not fun. And like, I'm waiting for that to happen.
I could
but,
see that too. I could see that too. And Horrible said it'll be a year of haves and have-nots. I'm not sure that that's true because they've really planned it out a lot more than before. Like it might be. Like this meta is so wide open at this point that I don't think any of us can really call it, but they've at least planned out, giants getting something, corn getting something. It's not like last year where if you didn't have the right keyworded thing in your army, it was all over for you. So I think that's really good.
Yeah, because as we discussed before, like Andorian Locust is actually not that used of a keyword.
No, it's not. It's not in any of the battle tactics, which is awesome.
And there have been times where even in one of the things that does apply to Andorian Locusts, which is optimal focus, sometimes in my 2 games I would decide to just take an extra CP instead of casting 2 times. Right?
Yes.
Sometimes you don't even use the thing that applies to Andorian Locusts. And likewise with the command traits, like you might have a better command trait that you want to use on your general that happens to be an Andorian Locust and you just don't use it. And then no one is going to take that grand strategy that's Andorian Locust. Like, or some people might, but like, I think you're not going to see it very often.
I totally agree. And, like one of the things that, and like, again, this will be about adapting. It's like you'll be deep in the game. Your opponent gets to give you the top of the turn. And when someone gives you the top of the turn, that means you're probably in a lot of trouble, right? And then you can at least hopefully just get an extra CP, or you know what I mean? Do stuff like that to adapt. Is there a heat wave over in BC? Yeah, there sure is. Yes. Oh man. Carson and I both got a rotten sleep last night because it was just so hot. Yeah. Led into the Maelstrom, 1 Mega Gargant into a unit. It won't remove in a single turn. Keith's comments are very on point as usual. If they get everyone decent battle tactics, and I said that at the start. Horrible. I agree that there's still a problem where if you have crappy battle tactics like Skaven, for example, that part is gonna be rougher for sure. But at least it's not quite as bad for like I think the general ones are much more doable. So in some ways it's going to be actually no, I guess not more doable, but like they're not like locked to certain things. What do you consider hot? Well, it was like 30 Celsius today.
Yeah.
So that's like 30 times 2 is 60.
I'm going to get the calculator up.
Minus 10% would be 54 plus 32, 86 roughly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I used to work in the tourist industry, and I was dealing with a lot of friends or a lot of people visiting from over the border, and so I never I only know Fahrenheit for cooking because all the ovens are in Fahrenheit and whatnot. But babies, hey,
look, okay, 86 in a rainforest is much worse than 86 wherever you are. Like we're literally in
actually,
a rainforest.
You know what though? He's in North Carolina, and it is pretty humid there as well, actually. But
fair.
You know what's the thing about me? So like, to get too far on a side or on a tangent here, but like, I used to be great in the heat, and then I lived in Tokyo for a long time in the Tokyo area, and it gets very hot there. It gets 100% humidity, 40 degrees, 45 degrees Celsius, and so I just started hating it when it gets too hot. Like it has nothing to do with it. Like I worked with a woman who lived in the Yukon territories for over 20 years. And I was like, you must consider, we were living in Courtenay at the time, which gets much colder than here. And I was like, oh, like you must consider like -5, like nothing. Like who cares when you lived in the Yukon for 20 or 25 years? And she's like, honestly, Rob, I hate the cold now. I never want to see another cold day as long as I live. I was like, you know what? I actually understand how you feel. Yeah. It was like 98 degrees with almost 100% humidity. Yes. No. Where you live is awful, Dan. I'm just kidding. But
why do you live there?
Yeah. Why don't you just move away? Actually, I've heard my cousins lived in North Carolina and they loved it. So
I've heard good things too.
Yeah.
One thing to consider though about Vancouver is that our insulation game is not on point.
That's true.
Like,
no one has AC.
we're just raw dogging whatever like the outside climate is, basically. Like
Yep.
no one has AC. There's
Yep.
so many single glazed windows here.
Yep.
So like the insulation is just terrible. Like I have a massive like window pane actually in these two corners where I'm sitting, and they're both just single pane pieces of
I didn't know
single
that.
pane pieces of glass. Yeah.
That's
so it's
crazy.
like whatever the temperature is outside, it's not that much different where I'm sitting right now.
The hard part too is when we've successfully gone off into a tributary. I was living on the top floor of a wooden apartment building, and they had like what's it called, tar in the roof, and so it would heat it up, and it was like a heater above you all night, and it wouldn't cool down during the night enough at all that it would cool off. And so yeah, it's just kind of awful. It's just you can't get away from it, except for 4 months of the year. Then it's death. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fair. Okay, you're from what's it called? The Realm of Fire. What is it again? I can't come up with it. Aquashi, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Aquashi. That's where you're from. Haha. We're from Gairan, right? The Realm of Life. We're in a rainforest. So.
Yeah.
Your background could have been the burning head attached to you. It's no sleeves. Stuff. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Let me find that. Okay. So now let's move on to the battle plan.
Spells? Oh, battle plans. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll rock through these pretty quick.
Try and get through as fast as possible, I guess.
Yeah. So Geomantic Pulse, 4 objectives, as you guys can see on here. Dawn of War style deployment, and this one's really interesting. So basically, at the start of turn 2, so this only happens once per game. There's no longer any interaction. Whoever takes the bottom of the turn picks either objective A or objective B, and then it just goes across the board for the rest of the game. And the pulse is worth 2 points, right?
The pulse is worth 2 points, and then each adjacent point to the pulse is worth 1 point.
An additional point, right?
Yeah.
So
each.
Yes. So if you have just the pulse, then you get 3 points because you have one for having an objective, right?
Yep.
And then you get 2
points. The
interesting
thing is actually in battle round 1, you can only score 1 primary objective point, victory point. In battle round 2, you can score up to 3. And battle round 3, you can score, I think, in battle rounds 3 and 4, you can score 7, 4.
1 for having it, right?
2 for the pulse, and 2 for each, 5 total.
And then plus your battle tactic for 7.
Yeah. So you can score up to 7. It's interesting because it like scales up and then back down, because by the time it gets to the other side of the table in battle round 5, then you can again only score 3 because you can only have the pulse and 1 adjacent, or I guess 4. Sorry.
Right.
So it's a neat one. I played this one with Henrik, and I like it quite a bit actually. And it's also important to mention that this happens second battle round onwards only, right? Like the first battle round, you can only control 1 objective, and then the rest just doesn't matter.
And you're also kind of chasing the pulse as it goes across the board, which is kind of fun.
You are, and this also disincentivizes double turning someone the first turn, because then they dictate, the flow of the battle essentially.
Right.
If you double someone, they're just like, okay, well the pulse is moving this way, and then for the rest of the battle, they're kind of on the upper hand, and then they can double turn you after that. It's actually quite bad, in my opinion, to double turn someone first turn in this one.
Yes, and this even more incentivizes taking the bottom of turn 1, which I also don't like. But overall, I think it's a really good battle plan. It's one of my favorites among the 12. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Next one.
Yeah, this is the one that got leaked that everyone knows. So some of them were, on there twice. Okay, so let me just do like a super quick rant, and then I'll let you explain and be positive about this one, because overall it's pretty cool, right? But I don't like this setup because the objectives stick out half an inch from either side. So if you are playing, with like those circles, which are the best way to play with objectives, and you're playing on like a table or something that's only 44 inches, this is super annoying because the objectives stick out a half inch, and it's anyway. I wish they had not done it exactly like this, but whatever, you know. Sorry. So would you mind explaining this? I'll be quiet now.
Sure. So instability at the start of each battle round after the first. I'm just going straight to the special rule.
Cool.
Because that's really all that matters.
Yes.
Starting at the start of each battle round after the first, after determining which player will take the first turn, the player with the fewest victory points can choose to collapse up to 2 objectives. If both players are tied on victory points, players roll off and the winner can choose to collapse 1 objective. Roll a dice for each unit within 6 inches of any collapsed objectives. On a 4+, that unit will suffer D3 mortal wounds. Once all rolls have been made for those units, remove all collapsed objectives from the battlefield. And then as far as victory points go, it's just standard 1-2 more. Mm-hmm. So basically starting battle round 2 onwards, whoever's losing can just start collapsing objectives once, like at each battle round.
Yeah.
Right? At each turn.
And if you're tied, you roll a dice, and then the person who wins can collapse 1 objective.
Yeah. I really like this because I really like any form of elastic banding when it comes to game design, where when you have someone who's falling behind and they have some sort of catch-up mechanic, like the classic example is the turtle shell in Mario Kart, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows that the first place player doesn't get turtle shells in Mario Kart. Only the people that are far behind get it, right? Yeah. And this is kind of the same thing where it's just like if you're losing, then all of a sudden you can just like not only take away your opponent's form of scoring objectives, but also hurt them, right? Dealing mortal wounds, which is pretty crazy.
I think of ultras in Street Fighter 4 is when you took damage, you got like access to like a super move of sorts that, yeah. But yes, it's interesting. The only thing, so a lot of the games are going to be tight at the start. So I wish it wasn't 2 objectives for 2 reasons. One is because it's going to incentivize people doing worse on purpose in order to get access to that. Now, there's an interesting sort of strategic element that happens, but it's going to cap people's scores, and they're going to tend to score very low on this one. Also, because it's 2, from battle round 4 onward, you can have 0 objectives on the board. Because the person could just remove 2 objectives, because it's at the start of the turn, right? So the start of turn 2, you remove 2. Which means for battle round 2, you're only playing with 4 objectives. Start of round 3, you're only playing with 2 objectives, and start of 4, you're playing with 0 objectives. So, I mean, I'll reserve judgment to a certain extent until I've played it more times. I've played it once. It was super cool. And we were both jockeying to have slightly less points. And then I think every turn, it was against Kenrick. We ended up tying, and we rolled off, and I won every time. So I was removing objectives, so I don't know. I didn't like that, but
there's a lot of it depends when it comes to this one for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're a book that has, or if you have like good battle tactic access, essentially, then you're more likely to want to get rid of more objectives, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. However, if you're pretty far behind and you're like playing a pretty aggressive army, like for instance, as ogres, I would probably be less incentivized to start removing a ton of objectives because I can move extremely quickly. Like I'm very aggressive, right? I can get to different places super quickly. In that sense, players can be disincentivized from just deleting objectives, which I think someone said in the comments already. Warpstone and Joyer, if you're behind on points, it'd be a bad idea to remove all of the objectives, for instance.
Yes, but you will probably even if you're playing ogres and you are slightly behind, you'll probably burn the ones in their thing most of the time. Maybe not, but I don't know. I think this is going to lead to some pretty serious NPEs overall. But I'm not complaining. I'm just kind of balancing things out because a lot of people are very positive about this, and I'm just seeing some potential flaws that might pop up. He says, if you were behind and blowing up all the objectives, how do you catch up? Yeah. So it could be kind of, that's true. I'm not sure. I'll just wait and see. I played it, I enjoyed it, but we were tied like the whole game, and so I just kept rolling and removing one objective, and I was playing Zeech, so I was just castling in my thing anyway, and he couldn't get back, you know. Um, Burn all.
I'm surprised that you guys stayed tied if that was the case then.
Well, we stayed tied for battle rounds 1 and 2, and then it's like okay, and then was it battle round 3? I think it was battle round 3 or 4. I started pull ahead, and it was just like, well, now that you've pulled ahead, you know what I mean? Like, I could burn your objectives, but then neither one of us are gonna get it, and
Yeah.
it's hard to explain. But like, he was in the red zone, or I guess it's the same, but like, it's hard to explain. But like, we looked at it, and he was just like, "There's no way I can get back in this game because, like, even if I burn yours, now that you're up, I can't get in there." And yeah, it's.
I see what you're saying. So if you are consistently, I think that's a pretty unique situation though, where like you're tied and you're winning every roll off. That's kind of yeah.
But like, and that's kind of what I mean though. Like, it depends on several different things, but you could end up with like, I don't think Kenrick probably enjoyed this as much as I did because of how things went, and it could be frustrating, and it just came down to a 50-50 who rolls higher, you know.
That's true.
And so I think I don't mind comeback mechanics, but I prefer skill-based comeback mechanics. You know what I mean? So like, kind of like Street Fighter, where it's like, yeah, sure, you have an ultra, but like, if you don't use it wisely, then it could end up being your downfall as well. So yeah, it's hard to explain, but it causes it does cause some silly shenanigans. Oh, right on. Yeah, I'll zoom forward. Lines of communication. I did play this one, but I don't remember it. So, would you care to explain this one?
Sure thing.
Thanks.
Just going to read it again. Disruption at the start of each battle round after determining which player will take the second turn. Oh, sorry. After determining which player will take the first turn, the player taking the second turn can pick a phase to disrupt. Right. During that battle round, each time a model in their opponent's army issues a command in that phase, their opponent must roll a die. Wait, what?
So basically, what happens is if you are
the player going second gets to disrupt.
Yeah, it gets to disrupt a phase, and then it's basically all the normal stuff. 3 objectives, Dawn of War style deployment. This is another one I'm very wary of, because it's like, okay, if I play in all phases, like if I'm Seraphon or whatever, like name another army that plays in all phases, like Sylvaneth, then this one is like, just, it kind of tilts towards me, I feel more. Whereas it's like, okay, but if my opponent's playing KO and I'm taking the bottom of the turn, it's like, okay, shooting phase, turning it off now. You know what I mean? Like, or if you're like a combat army, or if you're whatever, like enter, whatever thing here. I think it could be potentially, low bravery army, for example, battle shock phase. It's just kind of like, I just feel like it's not as, I don't like that. I don't like where it clearly helps out certain armies, and but it's interesting. Again, I'm going to wait and see. I don't like to judge things off the bat, but I have concerns.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. I definitely like it less than the last one, in my opinion. Like, it's a worse version of rubber banding.
Yep.
Especially because it's directly saying whoever goes second gets this benefit.
Yeah.
And we clearly know that there's a lot of benefits to going second already. So you're kind of, it might just be a win more sort of scenario.
Be a win more. And it also, it's like, it's not really rubber banding as such. Cause like, there are times where it's the better option to take the bottom of the turn. And when you know what that is so powerful in AOS. And then this just makes it even stronger. So, yeah.
So, not a big fan, but next one.
And I don't mind that they're, incentivizing taking the bottom of the turn. But yeah. See previous statement. So this one is a map. It's kind of the goofy, one of the goofier ones, where it's,
every step is forward yet.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Anytime a unit makes a charge move until the end of the turn, add 1 to the number of... Oh, I see, yeah. Anytime it makes a charge move, you add 1 to the number of models that each model in that unit counts as for the purposes of contesting objectives. So suddenly, if clan rats charge, then they count as double.
Mother of God.
Yeah. Or most things would count as double after they charge, essentially.
Yeah, like most 1 wound here. Yeah, things. But even like if you look at like, let's say, what's something that comes in like wounds of like, or like rat ogres, like they already counted as 2 each. Now they count as 3 each. Like that's a big deal.
All ogres.
Yeah,
2 to 3 as
ogres.
well.
Like, oh my God. Or Kragnos 31 instead of 30. Crazy. You know.
Yeah. This one's super simple. Yeah, it's just
it's
one,
simple,
one,
but
two
I like
more
it.
as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
You know,
it's kind of neat. Yeah.
I'm not sure that I really like the map. But
I don't like it
I don't
because
like
I know
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. Yeah.
Because it's 9 inches away from enemy territory, so you get this like you need a bunch of those 9-inch ruler things, and yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
a
like
weird
step
deployment.
deployment.
And also, I think that the special rule is kind of inconsequential as well most of the time. Like, you're not really charging onto objectives.
Yeah.
Usually. Or, I mean, I guess you are, but, like, it still doesn't apply very often.
I see what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Meh. Meh is my diagnosis.
Indeed. Indeed. Oh, God.
Limited resources?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain this one?
Sure. I'm just trying to calculate 7.5. Okay, so the objectives are not going off the board. I was just like, please, no. Okay. Limited resources. I don't remember this one at all. When a player gains control of an objective, they start to siphon meltwater from it. Okay. Sounds weird and gross. After scoring victory points, if the player whose turn it is controls an objective that they controlled at the end of their previous turn, they have siphoned all the meltwater from that objective. For the rest of the battle, that player cannot control that objective. Oh, weird. So basically you can, once you score...
If you hold an objective for 2 turns, it goes away, basically.
So then, but because you control objectives even after leaving it, then couldn't you just kind of screw someone over to a certain extent or get lucky with that? Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Just not
too.
interact with.
Yeah,
I hate this battle plan.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's bad. It's bad.
It's got weird objective deployments. I don't like the diagonalness
Me too. It's
of
such
that.
a pain in the ass to set up.
And then this is also just like, it's first of all, it takes a little bit to figure out like what this actually means.
Yeah.
Which isn't good.
Yep.
And second of all, you're just screwing over somebody who.
It seems
hassling,
needlessly complicated in its explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. Okay. I you know what, like, would have been so much simpler is just like you can't control, you don't get points 2 rounds in a row. Because
Yep.
Age of Bookkeeping,
Even then, I don't know if that's great though, because like it
it's
still
not
screws
great.
over some
I'm
armies.
just saying it's better because it's
It
so
is
much
better, yeah.
easier to keep
I
track
agree.
of, and it's so much easier to explain to people. You know what I mean? If you controlled it, you put a coin down or whatever, right? But this is like, okay, I have to put 2 coins down, and then I have to remember for the rest of this battle, I don't get to control it. There's way more bookkeeping involved. Yeah, exactly. Horrible said it. You know, yay, more bookkeeping and more gotchas. Exactly. Yeah, if you're not paying attention, yeah, I don't know.
What's
Poopy.
weird too is that your opponent can still control it.
Yeah.
So you're not like intentionally shutting it off.
Yeah.
So it's just like so much bookkeeping.
It's just bookkeeping for the sake of bookkeeping.
Yeah. Bad.
Yeah,
Don't
not
like
a-
it.
Bad. Poopy.
Poo-poo.
Okay. This one's the worst one so far, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Battle Plan 6, Spring the Trap.
Okay.
So this is another one I played with Kenrick, where basically it's pretty standard 1-2 more objectives. But the special mechanic is during deployment, after both players have set up their units, starting with the attacker, each player can remove D3 units from the battlefield. Now you roll 1 die, 1 D3, and both players get to remove that amount from the battlefield, starting with the attacker. And then starting from the second round, second battle round rather, At the end of your movement phase, you can set up those units you placed in reserve, wholly within 6 inches of the battlefield edge and more than 9 inches from enemy units. So basically, every army gets access to like a deep strike.
Right.
This is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like
it. It doesn't like screw anyone over necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
The territories are kind of nice. This is one of the few where I think you might be able to score that 3 battlefield edges one.
Yeah, right.
Because if you deploy your dudes on the battlefield edges,
right.
Then,
that's a good call.
Then there you go.
Yeah, I like that it doesn't screw over any one particular army or play style, etc. In general, it's got a unique, what's it called, deployment, which I do like. It's easy to measure out, but there's also some fun stuff that you can do. It will also be easy to score the battle tactic where you just get outside your territory. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, Eastworker says, "You too can ambush like a beast of chaos."
Indeed,
it's like a product you're being sold. And yeah, I think this one's decent.
I was trying to. I always forget that I can't respond to chat in Streamlabs, so I was trying to figure out anyway, I did want to agree with Warpstone. You got to put 2 tokens on every objective for the last one, and that's makes it worse. Age of bookkeeping. Yep. Indeed. Okay. Fountains of Frost, cool name. Yep. Interesting layout here. Dawn of War, and so this one does have the Andorian Locust thing going on for it.
I think it's the only one, isn't it?
Yes. It is, as far as I remember, and its Andorian Locust count as 10, so that's not that big a deal. I actually like that. It's a pretty light touch, you know what I mean, for it being involved in the game, right? And at the start of each battle shock phase, roll a dice for each objective that is contested by 3 or more units. That's a lot of units to be contesting an objective, but on a 4-up, each unit contesting that objective suffers D3 mortal wounds. So this is kind of weird. I don't know. I'm not really sure that I like that it incentivizes not putting more units on an objective. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. It's a 4-up, but I think it would have been better without that rule, but and then I think everything else is the same. Yeah,
it's just 1 2 more.
So it's fine.
I dislike this quite a bit, actually.
Oh, do you?
And the reason for that is because when you limit it to Andorian Locust, all of a sudden, a lot of armies just can't interact with this, right? Some armies have casting that don't have any Andorian Locust.
Right.
Like maybe if you're playing Gits and you're only bringing Scragrot.
That's true.
And then all of a sudden you only have this negative effect.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I mean, but both people have the negative effect, and it has nothing to do with Andorian Locust. It's just if you... The thing that I don't like about this is that where the objectives are located, so it's at the end of each battle shock phase. So if the other person takes the top of the turn, how are you not going to have 3 or more units on them, right? And also... it doesn't say this is outside of the rule that you can only count towards. You have to pick between one. So there's going to be a middle parts of the battlefield where you're going to be having multiple units on multiple objectives, and so they're all going to be hit by, your whole army turn 1 could get hit by 4-up D3 mortal wounds. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's good, but
it's also really weird because both in that second special rule and the spread of the objectives, this battle plan is incentivizing you to just kind of spread out as much as possible, which kind of inherently benefits shooting armies.
Yep.
Right.
And certain armies in general that are what do you call it? Independent operators. That don't need synergies and such. Yeah. This is the more I think about it, the worse this is. But I still think terrible. It's not the worst one. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it's not good, I think.
Horrible says, hopefully TOs will just get rid of the hinky rules and let this be a simple 6-objective tactical game. Yeah, I mean, I don't see that happening. They'll probably just pick other ones, but that's an interesting idea. And, talk to your local TO, I guess, right?
Very true.
The ice
The
fields.
ice fields.
Oh dear. Okay, this is a crazy. It's interesting actually.
Weird.
I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. Like I used to love playing end to end, and now I like it less and less for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because there's a lot less table leaning, I think, when you're playing like Dawn of War style deployment.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're end to end, like you tend to be walking around the table a lot more, which
I
you
think
know,
I don't
we're
think
old, our joints. Come on.
it's
Like,
true.
yeah.
I don't think these suit tournament play as much, and for me personally, it's also just the reality of filming an objective or a battle plan. You know what I mean? You tend to stand in certain areas. Yeah, it's called getting older. You know what's great though? It's so true. But the table that we play on here, it's actually quite tall. So for that purposes, unless you have Skaven or another Horde army, that can be kind of a pain no matter what. But it's definitely helped by this table. Sorry. So is it my turn to explain?
I can do it.
Okay.
Ice encrusted domain. Each time a unit runs, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. When you make a charge roll for a unit, for each dice that shows a 1, before modifiers are applied, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds.
Oh, wowza! I did not read this one. I was just like, this doesn't sound familiar.
So I guess the whole thing is like if you go
man.
too fast, you'll slip and fall.
Oh, that's cool.
It's neat. It's thematic.
It's thematic, and you know me. I love that stuff.
No, I would definitely play this for a narrative game.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool narrative game, especially with it's got a unique like objective layout.
Totally.
And then it's just standard 1-2 more, and I think that's it. So it's pretty simple, really easy.
Whew.
It's thematic, not a tournament mission by any means.
What is wrong with it for tournaments?
Again, it favors shooting armies heavily. Shooting armies don't want to charge and they don't want to run, and so they can just ignore this negative mechanic.
That's true. Or even just like Zeech, like they don't want to shoot, but they just want to sit there and not run. So
yeah, any army that doesn't want to be running and charging a bunch, is happy with this. But this is like an anti-destruction battle plan.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hopefully people will figure that out. It's called is a lie. Blood pelt hunters can't kill things. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, anything destruction there was a lie. That's a good point.
Actually, the blood pelt hunter just kind of crashed a hunting party, and it's like, "Hey guys, can I take a picture with your kill, please?"
I like that art though. To be honest, is that from the book?
I don't remember.
Fair. You should look it up at some point. Not now.
I should.
Yeah. Anyway, Power Flux. Okay, so this one's got a funky AABB, Dawn of War style-ish deployment with full territories end to end. In this battle, players can only score victory points for objectives they control if the objective has been activated. At the start of each battle round, after determining which player will take the first turn, the player taking the second turn must choose which pair of objectives, either A or B, are activated that battle round. Good God. Okay. Each player scores victory points at the end of their turn. One, both, or so I see, so one or two, another two for both. Scoring victory point for active you control that is contested by a friendly Andorian locus. Okay, so there is another thing here. And that's actually a big deal.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be, if you don't have Andorian locuses, then,
Yeah, that's huge, actually.
Yeah, you're just scoring an extra like 50% points.
Then there's one victory point if any enemy wizard units were destroyed in the battle round.
I kind of like that. So that's
neat.
That kind of flips it back, doesn't it? It's like,
if you have no wizards, then yes, I think it does.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting though. 2 victory points. Oh yeah, the battle tactic. Okay. I don't mind it. I need to play it though. I need to play it, and I need to play it a couple of times to figure out and I'm talking specifically for tournament. If you're talking like even the last one, if it's like destruction armies, it's like, okay, well, you're coming over for a battle report. We're both bringing shooting armies or armies that don't want to run around. Let's play, ice fields or whatever the crap it was called. You know what I mean? So like this,
Yep.
most of what we're talking about really is about competitive play, I think, or even pickup games or something like that. But yeah, it's interesting. You know?
Power Flex is it's neat, but I don't think that the like the dog's barking at me. Sorry.
No problem. I
I
can
wonder if you
barely
could
hear
hear her
it.
in the back. Okay. Uh,
Heard that one.
yep. Power Flex is
She does
what?
not want you to talk. uh, oh, it's so good.
I don't think the two things balance each other out. Is what I meant to say.
I agree.
So I think
I
it's
agree.
way easier to score the Endurian Locust one
Yeah.
than it is to score killing a wizard.
Especially if you're like in a like a Skaven army, for example. You know, I always go with what I know, but like, you know, I've got Andorian locusts. They're not going to be easy to kill because they're going to be behind a big screen and some shooting and wizardry. You know, yeah, I agree with what you're saying for sure.
Yeah, it's not particularly balanced, like
No.
armies wide.
Um, I guess
But the sad thing is, I do actually really like the flipping A/B objectives thing a
I do
lot.
too. Yeah,
Just because you can kind of undo the progress of your opponent, especially if you get double turned, you can undo the progress really well.
yeah, exactly. Because they no longer those objectives just don't exist. So, and like you could literally just once you turn it off, then they no longer have it for the subsequent turn. So you could like even think ahead, possibly, and 40 chess it. But yeah, if they just didn't, maybe this is a good one, like Horrible said, for TOs to kind of self-adjust. Like, and I wouldn't take out just one of those rules. I would take out both if they're going to do it. Like, don't just take
I
out the
agree.
Andorian Locust thing. Like, take out the Kill a Wizard thing as well. But yeah, they're so close, Carson. Frigid
So
Zephyr.
close. The Frigid Zephyr.
I think it's you.
Yep.
Okay.
I know. No. Ferocious Squall. Oh yeah, this one. At the start of the at the start of the battle, the battlefield is affected by a squall. God damn my dog. Until the squall dissipates, units more than 12 inches apart are not visible to each other. In addition, until the squall dissipates, models cannot fly. At the start of each battle round after the first, after determining which player will take the first turn, if the squall has not dissipated, the player taking the second turn rolls the dice and adds the number of the current battle round to the score. On a 7+, the squall dissipates.
Right.
So most likely for the first two turns, nothing is visible more than 12 inches apart, which is terrible. Like that's like it's one of the least balanced things I can think of, to be honest.
Yep.
When it comes to, because so much spell casting relies on visibility.
Yep.
Anything that's shooting relies on visibility.
Yep.
And then just turning off fly is really crappy too.
Yep. This
Like,
one
this
is the worst, right?
This is a terrible battle plan.
Yeah, it's a terrible battle plan. I don't know what they were thinking, to be honest. Like straight up, again for narrative, but this book isn't about narrative.
This isn't even good for narrative in my opinion, because like
Well,
you're not going to have fun. Go ahead. Sorry.
If you're doing narrative, you can plan it out. And if you're doing narrative, like you're literally making a narrative, like you can make a narrative battle plan where one army is supposed to win and you're telling a story, right? But the general's handbook is not about narrative. Like these are not meant for narrative. There's tons of narrative battle plans. This one is a good example of something that they should use in what was it called? The Thondia, that Thondia book. Like that, there, totally try it out there. Throw it in. Everything can be agreed upon ahead of time. You know what you're getting into, probably, hopefully. But this one is poopy.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah.
Next one.
Yeah.
Let's forget about it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Horrible. So wait, so this one, and what was the other one that we didn't like? The other, like the second worst one? Not that one.
Trying to find out.
Line of communication? I think that was it, right?
No, I like that one.
Oh.
I think. Wait, did I? I don't know.
Oh no, the 3-up. That one was okay. I don't know. Oh, maybe it was every step forward. The charge one? I don't know. I was trying to keep it like in my brain, but So if it pops up when we roll for which one we're doing for a battle report, I can just veto, bam, you know. Okay, no reward without risk. So it's got this weird, deployment, which I actually kind of like.
Limited resources with the one with the
Limited
second melt water
resources.
stuff.
Right. So limited resources and the frigid zephyr.
The frigid zephyr.
Okay.
Yeah.
Limited resource. I got to remember these things. I'm serious. Okay. So this weird sort of style deployment, and then when a wizard is slain, before removing that model from play, roll a 4-up. That wizard explodes as their magical energies are released uncontrollably, each unit within a number of inches equal to the wounds characteristic of the wizard. What the hell? That's crazy. Oh my god. And they blow up on a 4-up. I did not remember this. Suffers D3 mortal wounds. Roll separately. So like my freaking screaming bell, 15 inches? 15 inches. It blows up.
I also put Arcane Tome on my Stone Horn. So another 15 inches for that one too, and it's going to be in your back line.
No kidding. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, this is a really silly battle plan.
I agree. Yeah.
Not competitive whatsoever, but it is very fun, in my opinion.
I agree. I think you could do like a fun... Yeah, if you're playing this for fun, you could have so much fun. Like one of the funnest things in 40K is when your vehicle blows up on a 6 and just everything goes crazy. You know what I mean? It's very thematic and cool. You hope no reward without risk. You hope that you can literally deploy in combat. Is that a thing? The attackers pick which territory is their territory.
That's true, actually. It doesn't say in more than 9 inches. Yeah.
That's a mistake, though. That's a mistake.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a good catch, actually.
That's a great catch. Man, I don't normally read those things because I just assume that they have a brain,
That makes me want to go through the rest of them and be like,
I
just to
know.
see what is different.
I think Ladivicus obviously did, and so we can probably rest assured that it's not there, but we'll see, man. Interesting.
That also means that super aggro armies can just
Yeah, for real. For real, yeah. I just send in my stupid engineer, and sure, it's only 6 inches, but he runs in and then he dies, and probably does a decent amount of mortal wounds. Depending on the situation. The deployment thing is funny. It's hilarious. What is this, 40K? Crazy. Okay, towers in the tundra. Only 2.
Yep. So this one has weird deployment rules. The attacker picks which territory is their territory. The other territory is the defender's territory, which is standard. Each player chooses one defensible terrain feature or faction terrain feature wholly within their territory to represent a wizard's tower.
Cool.
Wizard's towers have the arcane scenery rule, in addition to any other scenery rules they have. Jeez. The players then use alternating deployment, yada yada yada, to figure out who goes first. Then score 1 victory point if you control at least one objective. And then I think it's 1, 2 more. Or no, just 1, 2. Because there's only 2 objectives.
Right.
And then each player scores a victory point at the end of the battle round as follows. Score 2 victory points if friendly units are garrisoning the wizard's tower in your territory. If your starting army did not include any units that could garrison a terrain feature, score 2 victory points if you control the wizard's tower in your territory instead. And then score 2 victory points if there are no garrisoning units in the wizard's tower in enemy territory.
And that's only garrisoning.
Yes.
That's weird.
It is weird.
I don't like that last bit.
Yeah, I kind of wish it was control instead of garrison.
Yeah. Because, what if they don't have... What if you have garrisonable terrain and they don't? It's just okay.
That's true.
If you happen to have it, then it's okay, well, I'm making that my thing, and then they're so close again, but it's just that one thing. You know?
So remember, you can pick any terrain piece in your territory,
No, I know.
not just your faction territory. So like a tournament, a TO should put one garrisonable in each,
For
probably, right?
sure. But I guess you could overcome that and just say, you know, yeah, I guess that's a good point. You could just say it. It could be FAQ'd. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah.
The last bit does work against an opponent that can't
Yeah.
garrison stuff, like giants.
Yeah. Or just yeah, there's so many things that could go wrong with it. You could pick your Nahul. Does it already have the arcane? Because if it already has the arcane, you wouldn't get +2. But what I was thinking, I don't remember. It used to have the arcane rule, but now I think they might word it differently. I'd have to look it up. But if they don't, then you can always just put another piece of terrain and then put your Nahul down so that it's within 3 inches or outside of 3 inches, and then you're inside of 3 inches of both, and then you're getting +2. And then right, and then also other things are able to do it then. Anyway, yeah, this one's okay. You know, I could it depending on if they FAQ it and how they do it, I could see this being bad or good. You know,
It's really just that last one that I think is bad. I think it should just be controls instead of
yes, yeah.
garrisoning.
If they
And if that was the case, it would actually be kind of interesting.
I agree. I actually think it would be a good one if that's the case. But we will see.
Yep. But that's it as far as the battle plans go.
Yep.
There's some cool ones in there.
There
Some of them they have some like interesting mechanics that I really like geometric pulse or geo.
Yep.
Is that what it is? I think
Yes.
I really like that one.
That's my favorite one for sure. It's weird because usually the first one is my favorite one. It seems like they lead with a strong one. And I don't think these ones are as balanced or as good overall as the previous GHB. I think that's the one part where this one's weaker for sure. But overall, yeah, I like them. You know, some of them are really bad though, and I don't think we really had that in the last one. Like, not as we had far fewer bad battle plans. Like, but maybe I'm not remembering it. Like, right?
Alex likes to bring up twists and turns. I think
That one's not good for sure, but like that one's still, for me at least, that one's still better than the worst of these ones. You know, don't choose your faction terrain if it can't be garrisoned. You are giving up victory points. Yes, that's true.
Nope.
Well, you are to the opponent.
You're giving. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I don't. Can anyone name? Or actually, I think the Lumineth Realm Lords ones can still be garrisoned, but most of them can't now. They took it away from like the Loon Shrine and like everything that I can think of. So yeah, maybe put it down in the comment section. Tell me if you have garrisonable terrain and what it is. I think Lumineth, but I can't think of anything else. So
Isn't the corn one garrisonable?
oh, I think so. Ooh, and I think Flesh Eater Courts are, now that I think about it. But yeah. Anyway,
So just those three.
just those three. Well, they might change. I don't think they're changing the new book. Anyway, endless spells. Ether Void Pendulum is the first one that changed that I know of for sure. It can go both ways now, and on a 2-up it does D6 mortal wounds instead of D3. Depending on the points, I could definitely see this one being quite popular. This is, I think, how it was in AOS 2.0 at the very beginning. Correct me if I'm wrong, everyone, but it was a very popular one back then. So, and it's a pendulum. Of course, it should go both ways. Like, what? That's so stupid. Anyway, okay. Chronomatic Cogs is basically been erased. You can just ignore. I'm just kidding. It's no longer reroll spells when you slow down time. Now it is, I forget, it's like you can cast an extra arcane.
You can cast Arcane Bolt and
or Mystic Shield.
Mystic Shields.
Yeah.
In addition to whatever.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't count towards the casting amounts.
You're mainly going to take this for rolling charges, unless it goes down to like. Well, actually, regardless, I think that's the main reason you take it, which was the reason you used to take it. I think it's going to be, yeah, like. Especially good if it's that one battle plan where you can like stop people from using commands on a 3-up, so you won't get to reroll your charge, and then it's like, well, I've got cogs now, so haha. But I mean, it really depends on the cost. I'm sure it'll come down. I don't know by
Yep.
how much. So yeah.
Yep. Emerald Lifestorm didn't change.
Nope. Geminids
Geminids
changed.
now just don't do mortals.
It's so much better now. It doesn't do mortals, but the no command thing lasts until your next hero phase instead of just through the combat phase, which is huge.
Right.
So battle shock, like all sorts of stuff. Yeah, this is huge. This is big. I still haven't built mine,
Wow.
even though they were.
I
super
have mine
good.
painted.
Do you? Nice, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I'll bring them to combat depending on the points.
Heck yeah. Yeah, depending
Actually,
on points.
maybe
for
I
sure.
will actually. Yeah.
Yeah, like you could do it for stopping Unleash Hell. Like there's so many things you could do. So yeah, cool. I'm interested in these. Maelstrom, I don't remember. Did it change? We don't have time. We've got like 15 minutes left before I need to go personally. So
Yeah. I don't remember either, but Prismatic Palisade definitely changed.
okay. What was the change on this?
So now it's when you set it up. So basically, after the end of the spell is set up in the start of each subsequent hero phase, roll a dice for each unit within 6 inches of the end of the spell. On a 3-up, that unit cannot make shooting attacks that turn. And then
Whoa.
add 3 inches to the range of this ability at the start of each battle round after the turn it was summoned. So basically, it just gets
Whoa.
brighter and brighter, and it's just a bubble that on a 3-up, things inside that bubble can't shoot anymore.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa! I wonder what the points are going to be for this. Like for against shooting? Like god dang.
I wonder too. And the nice thing is, as well, is like if you're not playing a shooting army,
Yeah.
it's a huge footprint,
It's
right?
it's big. Yeah.
So you can get some shenanigans going with like preventing charges and stuff
Whoa.
if you really want to. Granted, it doesn't move, so maybe you don't want to do that, but still.
Dang. Wow, that's so neat. I like it. Oh, Maelstrom changed quite a bit. So now it's after the spell has been summoned, place a d6 beside it with a 1 facing up. Each time a spell is successfully cast by a unit within 12 inches of this spell and not unbound, after the effects have been resolved, increase the value of the dice beside the spell by 1 to a maximum of 6. In addition, each time a spell is slain, or a model is slain, within 12 inches of the spell, increase the value of the dice to the maximum of 6. At the end of the phase in which the dice besides the spell reaches a 6, the spell is removed from play. When this spell is removed from play, add 6 to the value of the dice beside it. Each unit within a number of inches equal to the result suffers D3 mortal wounds. Wizard suffered 3 mortal wounds instead of D3. Oh man, I don't know.
So it's just like a big charge up bomb
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, but like you're
I
gonna
don't know
nuke
enough
yourself.
about this.
You're gonna nuke yourself with it, right?
Well, it moves.
Right. Yeah. So I guess you could barely get outside of range. Yeah, that's true. You don't want to cast it like too close. You want the wizard who's at the very front, and then X, Y, and Z. But that's interesting. Huh.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how long you expect this to,
Right.
how quickly you could do this. I think you could also. Can you throw this through spell portal?
If you can, but it can't move after. But
Right.
there you go. It's a good point. But if you're killing models next to it, then you're probably within its range too. Oh no, if it dies. So if you're a shooting army,
Guessing.
there's some play with this. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't love it personally. I think it's word salad as well.
People much smarter than us can probably figure out something powerful.
Yeah. We'll leave it
But
to
let's
them.
move on.
We'll leave it
Purple
to them
Sun.
and copy their tactics. Purple Sun, I don't think changed.
I don't think Quicksilver definitely didn't
Did
change.
not. Either Ravenix.
Yeah, Ravenex did not.
Soul
Soul Snare Shackles, did they
I
change?
think they did, but I can't remember. At the start of the movement phase, roll a dice for each unit within 6 inches. Subtract the result from this unit's move characteristic to a minimum of 0 until the end of that phase. In addition, if a unit's move characteristic is reduced to 0 by this ability, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. Huh. Yeah, that's different for sure. I don't remember exactly what it was before, but that's kind of cool actually.
Yeah.
Depending on the whole dealio.
It's pretty neat, yeah.
within 6 inches. So you could cast it outside of the range to affect your own units, but then you have to be careful about how you move as well.
Yeah.
That's cool. Gravetide, I don't remember. Burning Head changed for sure. After this endless spell is moved, the commanding player can pick one enemy unit. Pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of this endless spell and roll a dice. On the 2 up, this endless spell is treated as part of that enemy unit until that unit is destroyed or the endless spell is dispelled, at which point the endless spell is removed from play. While this endless spell is part of a unit, at the end of each movement phase, roll a dice. On a 2 up, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. That's fun. I like it. I'm sure it'll go up because it's like 20 or 30 points now or something crazy.
Also, Warpstone Enjoyer says Gravetide changed to a 5-up, which is literally twice as useful.
That's true. Undeniable. I don't know if we're going to see it or not. I think the Burning Head will be, as Keith said, it'll be popular. Spell Portal, I don't think changed. Correct me if I'm wrong, everyone. Soul Scream,
There's one thing that changed about Spell Portal, I think, which is that now the spell is technically counted as having been cast through the other side of it. So when you're unbinding, that's the range you're looking for as well. I
thought it did before, and I could be wrong, but I thought it said treat it as if it's basically coming from there. But it's possible I was reading my own interpretation into it as well.
Maybe that was an FAQ that I remember and it wasn't this or something, but
maybe that's possible. That would be dumb as well, because like but whatever. Yeah, I'm glad it's this way for sure. That's the way it should have always been. I don't think Soul Scream changed. Oh, it did change? Damn it. I gotta go.
Another way that Spell Portal changed is that you have to set up one portal within 1 inch of the caster.
Yeah.
Was that not true before?
I thought it was true. Maybe I'm thinking of setup versus how you cast through it, but that might have changed for sure.
Okay.
Soul Scream was nerfed just for KO, but from what I understand, it still works really well for Trog Bombs. And then Shards is interesting, actually. This is one of the more interesting changes. Basically, while you're within 6 inches of the spell, you cannot fly or be removed from the battlefield with an effect that would allow them to be set up again on the same turn. So no like skitter leap or teleportation. In addition, they cannot set up within 6 inches of this spell. So you create like a 12-inch bubble where you can't deep strike as well. So it's interesting, and depending on points, blah blah blah. Like we keep saying this, right? It's interesting. Lao Shan, basically they just removed it from the game because the only player, we already talked about this to a certain extent, but the only thing using it was Thanquol, and now he can't. So, hopefully it went down in points because it's not great. Why can I not scroll down? Oh, we're at the bottom. There we go.
Yep.
I don't know if there's any more. I don't think there's any more endless spells, but if there is, it's not in this PDF.
There was what is it? Horrorcast? Did we look at that? I don't think it changed, but
oh, Horrorgast? I don't think it's in here.
It's at the very top.
Oh, really?
Very top of the Endless Spells update thing.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. Units cannot receive commands in the battle shock phase while they're within 12 inches. In addition, if a unit fails within 12 inches of any only spell's ability, add D3 to the number. I don't think that changed. The Shards is cheap enough.
I don't think so either.
But horrible, we don't know if the points are going to stay the same. I don't think they will, but I hope they are. And I agree with you. That's why I was looking at converting one. I rebased my faux Skaven Lao Shan that I made out of spare sprues. I literally carved this, and now I can't use it. So, sucks to suck, as you like to say. I do want to make a Shards one as well. And I've got a Horrorgast planned, but yeah, it'll probably get removed before I get a chance to paint it. Yeah. Is there anything else that we wanted to?
Maybe we can bring up the rumored battle scroll changes. There's two big things that we know of.
Yes.
That are rumored of, rather.
It's pretty reliable though, because we're getting it from like someone who got it from a TO.
Yeah. So number one is that the Coherency limit is going up to 6 instead of 5, which means if you're a unit with 6 or less models in it, then you can like string them up in a straight line.
Yep.
Um,
You only have to be
which
within,
is really good.
coherency is only within 1 inch of one or more models, not 2.
Yeah.
So much better. It should have been like this from the beginning. But
Exactly, yeah. And that benefits a lot of things like ogres, for instance. Gets a really big buff from that for their trolls.
Yep.
Eels from Ideneth Deepkin, like the list goes on. There's tons of stuff that
Pigs,
benefits.
ogres,
Pigs, yep.
Rat ogres, like, oh, there's so many things. It's going to be great.
Croxagores.
Croxagores, absolutely. Yep. Love it all.
Yeah. And then the other thing is the Lookout Sir has changed to, instead of it being when you're within 3 inches, it's -1 to hit. Now it's if a hero is within 3 inches of a battle line unit or just any unit.
3 or more models. I can't remember if it's a battle line or not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Same caveat
we're
there.
Seeing it. We're not seeing the actual text. We're seeing it like someone explaining it to us in a chat. Yeah.
So if they're within 3 inches of a unit with 3 or more models, or if it's the same, yada yada, then they are not visible to shooting attacks more than 12 inches away.
Yeah. And it's not. It looks like it works for named characters as well.
Yeah. So that's kind of the answer to, well, Galatian Champions.
Thanks for joining us, Horrible. Appreciate having you here.
That's kind of the answer to Galatian Champions being safe from shooting before, or rather, like heroes. I was very worried actually going to this. It's much better.
Yeah.
Because I was worried that we're going to go into a shooting meta where like all of the armies that can just kind of pick your heroes off the table are going to do so.
Yeah.
And now, if this is true, that's not the case, which is pretty nice. You still have to play smartly, right? You have to keep your heroes like with enough things to do that. And certainly if you get within 12 inches, you can still blast a hero off the table. But yeah, it's pretty nice.
Totally agreed. And yeah, and then we also saw like some other changes, rumored changes happening to Gits. Don't know if it's true or not, so maybe I won't comment on that, but like it's a pretty big deal if it is true, and it sounds true. Like it, that one, I just saw like more of a snippet of a comment. So from a similar source, but yeah, that's a big deal if it's true. So we'll see. I think I like all of those changes. Everything that we've heard about that's from the Battle Scroll update though, and we heard that's coming on Thursday. Yeah, that was what we heard from the TO. So should be good. Yeah. Is there anything else?
Okay. No, I think that's it.
Cool. Yeah. Message me, Ladivicus, on the Discord. And if anyone wants to join, link to the Discord is in the description, and everyone's welcome on there. If you have what's it called? If you are a Patreon, there's a private one as well. So yeah. But I won't even put that there. Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. We really appreciate you. It's always better, and not only does having you here more fun for me and Carson, but you guys are making jokes, which are great, which really entertain us, and then also you guys are pointing out things, very astute. So it's great for everyone, including the people who are watching afterwards that can't be with us because we stream at kind of a weird hour, 7 p.m. PDT. So yeah, but thanks again for joining me, Carson. It was a pleasure. Going forward, we're going to have more time with you, and it's going to be even better. We got a bunch of plans for the channel, but so we're going to start executing them starting next week?
Sounds good.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks to everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.